The frontier was never as empty as history claims. Beneath the dust of forgotten trails and abandoned towns, something lingers. Stories that refuse to settle, questions that were never answered. Riders vanished without a trace. Entire camps fell silent overnight. And in the vast stillness, witnesses spoke of things they couldn't explain or dared not name. Were these events coincidence or something far more unsettling? As the line between legend and reality begins to blur, one question remains. What truly haunted the Wild West? So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the mysteries that still echo across the desert. The sun casts long shadows over the rugged hills of southeastern Spain, where the ancient fortifications of Los Millares stand, weathered yet resolute, as they have for millennia. Situated near the village of Almeria, this Bronze Age settlement is a silent witness to a long-forgotten world, one that was both complex and mysterious, existing long before the written word ever entered the historical record. Los Millares is an enigma. Its sprawling walls and carefully constructed structures suggest a society that was not only advanced in its engineering, but also deeply invested in its defense. The settlement is encircled by a series of monumental stone walls, a labyrinth of passages and circular towers, designed not just to protect, but to control. The sheer scale of these fortifications is staggering, especially considering that they were built around 2000 BC, long before the grand empires of history would rise and fall. Yet, the people who built them remain elusive. No texts, no scrolls, only stone and earth, speaking in riddles to modern archaeologists. What were these people protecting? What threats did they face that necessitated such elaborate defenses? Mainstream theories suggest that the settlement was part of a larger network of Bronze Age communities that controlled the surrounding lands, engaging in trade and perhaps even warfare. The materials recovered from Los Millares, including copper tools, pottery, and fragments of bone, point to a society with strong connections to the Mediterranean world, yet its fortifications suggest a people constantly on guard. But there are unanswered questions. Why, for instance, did the builders of Los Millares focus so much on defense? The location, perched on a hill with sweeping views of the landscape, offers natural advantages, yet the settlement's walls are still immense, running for miles, constructed with meticulous care. Was there a great external threat, a rival civilization whose advances forced them to build these impenetrable barriers? Or perhaps something even more insidious, an internal conflict, a society torn apart by its own divisions, one that needed these walls to keep its own people from fracturing into chaos? The construction techniques of Los Millares themselves only deepen the mystery. The stones used in the fortifications are not uniformly shaped, and some of the walls appear to be constructed with a precision that seems almost impossible for the tools available at the time. Could it be that the people of Los Millares possessed a lost knowledge of engineering? Or did they perhaps benefit from external influences, from a civilization long gone, whose legacy left its mark in ways we are only beginning to understand? Some have speculated that the walls and the layout of Los Millares could hint at something more symbolic. Could the fortifications have been part of a larger ritualistic design, a structure not only to keep out invaders, but to serve as a cosmic representation of order and protection against unseen forces? Archaeologists have unearthed burial sites within the settlement where the dead were interred with grave goods, often positioned in a way that seems to suggest a belief in life after death, or perhaps in some form of spiritual protection. Could the walls of Los Millares have been meant to guard against not just earthly invaders, but the unseen forces of the afterlife? Theories abound, but none can fully explain the site's mysteries. Some argue that Los Millares could have been a precursor to more well-known ancient civilizations, a proto-city-state whose influence stretched far beyond its borders. Others suggest that it was a defensive outpost, strategically located to control trade routes between the Mediterranean and the interior of the Iberian Peninsula. Yet, as much as archaeologists and historians have uncovered, much remains unknown. What we know is that Los Millares was a society that understood the importance of defense, that valued structure, and that was deeply connected to its environment. But were these people simply survivors of their time, or did they possess a deeper understanding of the world, one that we have yet to uncover? The walls of Los Millares stand today as they have for thousands of years, enduring the slow passage of time. But with every excavation, with every stone that is turned over, it becomes clear that the full story of this ancient settlement has not yet been told. What secrets lie buried beneath the earth? And what does the future hold for this lost civilization? Perhaps the answers will remain hidden, locked away in the silence of these ancient fortifications. Or perhaps, with time, they will reveal themselves to those who are patient enough to listen. As we move from the ancient fortifications of Los Millares, a place where the past stands resolute against the ravages of time, we now turn to another enigma, one that has long intrigued and baffled historians, archaeologists, and explorers alike. Deep within the arid deserts of southern Peru, there lies a site where the earth has yielded more than just pottery and tools. It has revealed something much more startling: the Nazca Mummies. These mummies, discovered in the early 2000s, come from a place renowned for its ancient mysteries, the Nazca Desert. This vast, barren expanse is known not only for the famous Nazca lines, those massive geoglyphs etched into the ground, but also for the tombs that have held their own share of secrets. The Nazca people, who lived in this region from around 200 BC to 600 AD, left behind many things, but none as perplexing as these mummies. The discovery itself is steeped in mystery. In the early 2000s, reports emerged of strange, elongated mummies being found near the Nazca lines, but these weren't your average remains. These were different, marked by their unusual features, including elongated skulls and a form that seemed almost otherworldly. Unlike the typical mummified remains of the ancient world, these mummies appeared to have been deliberately preserved with a level of care and intention that suggested a people who knew much about embalming and preservation. At first glance, they seemed almost human, except they weren't entirely. The skulls, for instance, were far larger than typical human skulls, and their shape was distinctly different. The eyes, larger and more pronounced than those of modern humans, added to the eerie sense that something about these mummies didn't quite fit with what we know of the past. Were these the remains of a distinct, ancient culture, or could they be something else entirely? Mainstream explanations suggest that these mummies may simply represent a different variation of human beings, perhaps the result of a unique and long-forgotten cultural practice of cranial deformation. This practice, known as trepanation, was common among many ancient cultures around the world. The Nazca people, like other cultures in South America, are known to have altered the shape of their skulls by binding them with cloth or boards during childhood, a form of body modification believed to confer social or spiritual significance. Yet, despite these plausible explanations, the mummies from Nazca do not fit neatly into the known patterns of cranial deformation. Their elongated heads are far more exaggerated than typical examples, and the size of their skulls, along with their unique shape, presents a challenge for traditional archaeological interpretations. Could the Nazca mummies be the result of something far more extraordinary than simple cultural practice? One theory that has captivated imaginations is the idea that these mummies could be the remains of extraterrestrial beings. This notion has been fueled by the strikingly unusual features of the mummies, which seem to defy the limits of human anatomy. Could it be that the ancient Nazca people were in contact with beings from another world? And if so, why would they choose to preserve these beings in such a deliberate and ceremonial way? Perhaps just as intriguing as the question of their origin is the mystery surrounding how these mummies were buried. In the hot, dry desert climate of the Nazca region, mummification would be almost inevitable, as the conditions are perfect for the preservation of bodies. But the burial methods themselves raise questions. The mummies were found in a series of tombs, buried with ritualistic care, but their placement within these tombs seemed strange. Often, they were positioned in ways that appeared to suggest a specific symbolic meaning. Their arms were carefully placed, sometimes holding objects of importance, and the way they were arranged hinted at some kind of ritual significance. One of the most disturbing aspects of these discoveries is the fact that many of the mummies were found with what appeared to be surgical marks. Some reports even suggest the mummies may have been subjected to complex surgical procedures, suggesting a level of medical knowledge that seems far ahead of what we would expect from a civilization in the Nazca region over 2,000 years ago. How could a people who lived so long ago possess such advanced understanding of anatomy and surgery? Even more perplexing is the question of the materials found with the mummies. Items recovered from the burial sites include small statues, some of which depict strange, alien-like figures, and fragments of textiles that show intricate, detailed patterns. Are these items the remnants of an ancient belief system, one tied to a cosmic understanding of the universe? Or do they represent something much more unusual? Could the Nazca mummies be the evidence of a hidden chapter of human history, one that challenges everything we know about the origins of human civilization? Some have argued that these mummies could represent a lost race of beings, perhaps an offshoot of humanity, or even something entirely different, beings that predate the known human race, or survivors of an ancient civilization that has been wiped from the historical record. Others suggest that the elongated skulls could be symbolic, a sign of spiritual elevation, and that the mummies themselves could represent a deeply spiritual practice rather than the remains of a different species. Theories aside, what remains undeniable is the strange, haunting allure of these mummies. What were the Nazca people truly preserving? And why did they go to such lengths to do so? Were they guarding the remains of their gods, their ancestors, or something else entirely? These questions, like so many others in the mysterious world of ancient history, remain open. The mummies of Nazca stand as silent witnesses to a forgotten past, their secrets hidden beneath layers of sand and time. While archaeologists and researchers continue to study and analyze, the full story of who these people were and what they might have known remains as elusive as ever. What truths might still lie buried, waiting to be uncovered? Perhaps in time we will learn more. But for now, the mystery persists, and the mummies of Nazca continue to provoke more questions than answers. As we leave behind the ancient mummies of Nazca, we now journey to a place where stone speaks not of the distant past, but of a project that was abandoned long before its completion. Here, amidst the timeless landscape of Egypt's Aswan quarry, lies a colossal enigma, the unfinished obelisk. Nestled in the rocky bed of an ancient quarry, just outside of Aswan, this massive piece of stone has long been a subject of fascination and speculation. Its shape, still partially attached to the bedrock, is a testament to the ambition of its makers, an ambition that, for reasons unknown, was left unfulfilled. The unfinished obelisk is not just an artifact. It is a glimpse into the practices, challenges, and perhaps even the mysteries of the ancient Egyptian stoneworking techniques. The obelisk measures over 40 feet long and is estimated to weigh over 1,000 tons. Its size alone is enough to take one's breath away. When fully realized, it would have stood as one of the largest obelisks ever made. Yet, for reasons that remain unclear, the great block of granite was never detached from the rock. It lies there in its half-formed state, a monumental relic of a project abandoned before it could be completed. At first glance, it may seem like a simple quarrying error, a mishap in the extraction of stone. However, a closer examination of the site reveals that the story may not be so straightforward. The precision with which the obelisk was carved, The sheer scale of the project and the fact that it remains unfinished suggest that there may have been far more to the story than just a mistake. Theories about the obelisk's abandonment abound. Some suggest that it was left incomplete due to a flaw in the granite, a crack that ran deep into the stone, making it unsuitable for further carving. Others believe that the project was simply halted due to a change in leadership, or perhaps the shifting priorities of the ancient Egyptians. It's known that Egypt's rulers often began monumental projects that were abandoned due to political upheavals or changes in dynastic power. But could there be another reason? Some have speculated that the unfinished obelisk represents more than just an abandoned project. It could be a key to understanding the ancient Egyptians' approach to the world around them. Was the unfinished obelisk a ritualistic or symbolic marker? Could its abrupt abandonment signal something far deeper, an unexplained cosmic event, or the sudden interruption of an ancient belief system that was tied to the stone itself? To fully appreciate the mystery, it is crucial to understand the significance of obelisks in ancient Egypt. These towering monuments were not merely decorative. They were seen as symbols of the sun god Ra, representing the rays of the sun descending to the earth. In fact, many of Egypt's most famous obelisks were carved from the very same quarries in Aswan, their imposing forms serving both a functional and spiritual purpose. Obelisks were often erected at the entrances of temples, where they could stand as silent witnesses to the divine, channeling the power of the sun into the sacred space. If the unfinished obelisk was intended to serve such a purpose, its abrupt halting raises questions about the forces at play in ancient Egypt. Was the project left incomplete because of a sudden change in religious practices, or was there an event, something catastrophic, that interrupted the carving? Was the stone itself, perhaps, imbued with a spiritual power that the Egyptians themselves could not fully understand? It's impossible to know for certain, but the question lingers. Did the project stop for practical reasons, or was something more metaphysical at play? Then there's the question of how the Egyptians were able to quarry and move such massive blocks of stone with the tools and technologies available to them at the time. The precision with which the obelisk was being carved suggests a sophisticated knowledge of both engineering and craftsmanship. However, the methods used to shape and transport these colossal stones are still not fully understood. While mainstream theories suggest that the Egyptians used copper tools, levers, and ramps to move the stones, other, more fringe theories suggest that ancient civilizations may have had access to technologies that have been lost to history. Could there have been advanced techniques, perhaps even knowledge from an ancient civilization now lost to time, that allowed the Egyptians to manipulate stone in ways we still don't understand? Perhaps even more intriguing are the unfinished marks left on the obelisk itself. Unlike other quarries from the same period, where the stone was more roughly hewn, this obelisk bears traces of fine, almost delicate carving. The marks show signs of intricate planning, precision in every detail, before the project was halted, leaving a mysterious trail of unfinished work. It is as though the stone itself was meant to become something far more than just a monolith, but was frozen in time before it could achieve its intended form. Some have suggested that the unfinished obelisk, in its half-formed state, may have held a deeper meaning, a message or a signal, perhaps. Its abandonment could represent the impermanence of human endeavors or the cyclical nature of creation and destruction. After all, the ancient Egyptians were deeply concerned with the concept of the afterlife and the permanence of their monuments. Could the unfinished obelisk have been a symbolic act, representing a change in the spiritual or political landscape of Egypt? Could its completion have signaled a new era that never came to pass? The location of the unfinished obelisk also adds a layer of mystery to the story. It is situated in a quarry far from any major city, nestled in a remote corner of the Nile Valley. Why was such a monumental project undertaken in such an isolated location? And why, after beginning the task, did the workers leave it abandoned, as if they had simply vanished? Some have speculated that the quarry may have been abandoned for reasons other than political or technical. Perhaps the area held some significance to the Egyptians that we still don't fully understand. A place where they believed the gods resided, or where some sacred event occurred that we have yet to uncover. As we stand before the unfinished obelisk today, it is impossible not to wonder, was this monumental structure the product of human ambition, an abandoned project halted by the forces of nature or politics? Or was it a sacred task left incomplete for reasons we may never fully comprehend? Could the obelisk, still tethered to the bedrock, hold a message for us? One that has been waiting for millennia to be deciphered? The unfinished obelisk of Aswan remains a testament to both the ingenuity and the mystery of the ancient Egyptians, its story still partially veiled by time. And as we continue to study and explore the true purpose of this monument, its meaning, its significance, and the reason for its abandonment, remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of history. As we leave behind the massive stone of the unfinished obelisk in Aswan, we journey into a different kind of mystery, one hidden in the delicate strokes of ancient ink on parchment, a mystery that transcends mere material objects. We now turn our focus to the Mayan Codices, a collection of sacred texts that have defied complete understanding for centuries. These codices are not just artifacts, they are windows into the soul of a civilization that flourished in the dense jungles of Central America long before the rise of European powers. The codices, with their intricate illustrations and symbolic writing, are both beautiful and cryptic. They offer a glimpse into the world of the ancient Maya, their rituals, their beliefs, and their understanding of the cosmos. These manuscripts, crafted from bark paper, deerskin, and sometimes other materials, were the canvases upon which the Maya recorded their most sacred knowledge. Yet, for all their beauty and craftsmanship, much of their content remains obscure, hidden behind layers of symbols and metaphors that continue to elude even the most seasoned scholars. The codices that survive today are few. Of the hundreds, perhaps thousands, that the Maya once produced, only 3 major codices remain: the Dresden Codex, the Madrid Codex, and the Paris Codex. Each of these surviving texts is housed in major museums across the world, yet their journey to preservation has been one marked by destruction, theft, and the slow process of rediscovery. The Dresden Codex, arguably the most famous of these ancient texts, is an extraordinary manuscript filled with astronomical tables, gods, and ceremonies. It is a collection of divinatory rituals, predicting cycles of the moon, Venus, and other celestial bodies, key elements of Mayan belief and timekeeping. The Codex reveals the Maya's sophisticated understanding of the heavens and their connection to earthly events. On its pages, the gods of the Maya interact with the forces of nature, dictating the movements of the stars and guiding the fates of the people. This codex, when studied, suggests that the Maya did not simply observe the stars. They believed the stars observed them. The Maya understood their world as part of a larger, interconnected cosmic cycle, a delicate dance between the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. And yet, for all its astronomical significance, much of the meaning behind these pages remains speculative. How did the Maya develop such advanced knowledge of the stars, when, by all accounts, their instruments for observation were far less sophisticated than those of other ancient civilizations? Was their understanding based solely on empirical observation, or did they possess some secret knowledge passed down through the ages that we have yet to uncover? The codices, with their mysterious symbols and calendrical systems, tantalize us with more questions than answers. But it's not just the Dresden Codex that invites intrigue. The Madrid Codex, another key piece in the puzzle, offers insight into the rituals, sacrifices, and religious practices of the Maya. It is filled with depictions of priests and gods, often engaged in rites of renewal and offerings. Here, the symbolism of death and rebirth, the interplay of the underworld and the sky, is woven into the fabric of everyday life. This codex suggests that the Maya viewed their lives as part of an ongoing cosmic struggle in which the gods played a direct role. Every cycle of the calendar, every movement of the stars, seemed to herald a shift in the balance of the cosmos. Were these texts simply ceremonial, or did they encode deeper, more profound knowledge about the nature of existence itself? The Paris Codex offers yet another layer of mystery. Smaller in size and scope, it deals more directly with the Maya gods, portraying them in a vibrant pantheon of deities that governed various aspects of life: agriculture, fertility, war, and the changing of seasons. Some scholars believe that the Paris Codex may hold the key to understanding the Mayas' ritualistic practices on a personal level, detailing the ways in which individual Maya engaged with their gods in daily life. But this raises a curious question. Were these practices truly as structured and codified as they appear, or were they more fluid, adaptable to the needs of each community? The fact that all of these codices were created with such care and reverence suggests that they were not mere texts for record-keeping or knowledge dissemination. They were sacred objects, believed to possess power. Were they simply instruments of spiritual guidance, or did they hold knowledge, maybe even prophecies, of a civilization that is long gone? And if so, what were the Maya trying to tell us? What truths did they believe lay hidden within the pages of these mysterious manuscripts? One of the most intriguing aspects of the codices is the Maya calendar, particularly the Hab, the solar calendar, and the Tzolkin, the sacred 260-day calendar. These calendars were used not only to track time, but to divine the future, to communicate with the gods, and to organize the rituals of the Maya. The precise calculations and intricate interweaving of these calendars demonstrate a level of sophistication that seems to transcend even the practical. Were the Maya simply keeping track of the passage of time, or were they marking the turning points of an age, anticipating some kind of cosmic event or cataclysm? Perhaps the most unsettling question raised by the codices is the possible reason for their creation in the first place. Was the Maya civilization trying to preserve knowledge for future generations, or were they preparing for something? Could the texts have been crafted as a means of passing on knowledge that would be vital for their survival, or perhaps their resurgence, when the time was right? Some fringe theories suggest that the codices encode a hidden history, one that speaks of events, catastrophes, or prophecies long forgotten. Were the Maya attempting to warn future civilizations about the dangers they faced, using their intricate calendar systems and religious rites as a means of preserving their wisdom? Furthermore, the fact that most of these codices were destroyed during the Spanish conquest, often by the orders of the priest Diego de Landa, who viewed them as idolatrous, adds another layer of mystery. What knowledge was lost in the fire? How much did we lose in the destruction of these texts, and what were we meant to learn from them? We know that the Maya kept records of their rulers, their rituals, their gods, but did they also document something more profound? Something that has slipped through the cracks of history? Today, the surviving codices, though invaluable, remain fragments of a once great repository of knowledge. They speak of gods, time, and cycles, but they also leave us with a deep sense of wonder. What might still be hidden within their pages? What knowledge did the ancient Maya hold, and how much of it has been lost to the winds of time? The enigma of the Mayan codices endures as we continue to ask, are these sacred texts simply the remnants of a forgotten civilization, or do they hold the keys to understanding something much greater? As we leave behind the ancient wisdom of the Mayan codices, we now venture into a place that once hummed with life, but now lies silent and forgotten, a land where a once thriving colony vanished without a trace. This is the story of the lost colony of Greenland. Situated on the icy, windswept shores of Greenland, In the vast expanse of the North Atlantic lies the haunting legacy of a Norse settlement that defied the odds to survive in one of the harshest environments on Earth. The colony, founded around the year 985 AD by the Norse explorer Eric the Red, was part of the Vikings' ambitious expansion across the North Atlantic. They called it Vinland, and it was home to a thriving community of settlers, farmers, and craftsmen, people who built churches, houses, and trade routes, their lives intertwined with the unforgiving landscape of the far north. The colony flourished for nearly 500 years, making it one of the earliest and most enduring examples of European settlement in the Americas. But in the early 15th century, the colony suddenly and mysteriously disappeared. There are no historical records that definitively explain why or how this happened. It was as though the people who lived there, those who built the stone churches and raised their children in the cold but fertile soil, simply vanished into the unforgiving tundra. Today, the ruins of the eastern settlement and the western settlement lie scattered across the desolate Greenlandic landscape. The wind sweeps through the crumbling stone walls, and the quiet expanse of glaciers and icebergs stretches to the horizon. To the casual observer, the ruins seem like any other abandoned settlement, lost to time. But for historians and archaeologists, these remnants of a once thriving colony pose one of the most enduring mysteries of the medieval world. What happened to the people of Greenland? Why did they vanish? And could they have survived in Greenland longer than the history books suggest? One of the central questions surrounding the lost colony is why it was abandoned at all. The Norse settlers of Greenland were skilled farmers, hunters, and craftsmen, and they had a thriving trade network with Europe. The land was not as inhospitable as we might imagine. It was rich with wildlife, and the settlers managed to cultivate crops, raise livestock, and create a vibrant society. But then, somewhere between the 13th and 15th centuries, something shifted. The settlements, once bustling with activity, fell silent. By the time Europeans returned to Greenland in the 16th century, they found only ruins, and the Norse had disappeared entirely. What caused this dramatic collapse? Many mainstream historians point to the changing climate as the primary culprit. Around the 14th century, the Little Ice Age began, a period of colder temperatures that lasted for several centuries. The cooling climate would have made farming and livestock raising increasingly difficult. For a colony so reliant on agriculture and the grazing of cattle, these changes could have had a devastating effect. The once productive farmlands could have been overrun by glaciers or subjected to harsher winters, making survival more and more precarious. But could this climate shift alone account for the disappearance of an entire colony? What about the written records of the time? The Norse sagas, those oral histories passed down through generations, mention the settlement in passing, but they offer no direct explanation for the collapse. Some even hint that the settlers were still in Greenland during the 14th century, trading with passing ships. Why, then, did they disappear so abruptly? In searching for answers, some have suggested that the settlers may have turned to a more nomadic lifestyle in response to the changing conditions. Rather than abandoning the colony altogether, they could have retreated to more habitable regions or merged with the indigenous Inuit populations of Greenland, who were better adapted to the cold and harsh conditions. Some historical accounts suggest that there were occasional skirmishes between the Norse settlers and the Inuit, but it remains unclear whether these conflicts were the reason behind the disappearance, or if they were merely minor incidents. Another theory posits that the collapse of the colony was the result of social upheaval, perhaps even internal strife. By the 15th century, the Norse settlers had lost contact with the outside world for extended periods, isolated by the growing challenges of survival in Greenland. Without access to the support of trade routes, resources may have become scarce, and tensions between the settlers could have risen. Did a breakdown in social cohesion lead to the downfall of the colony? Could the Norse have been unable or unwilling to adapt to the harsh new climate, clinging to old farming methods that simply no longer worked? Perhaps most puzzling of all is the role that external factors may have played in the settlers' disappearance. During the 14th and 15th centuries, Greenland was not an isolated island, but a region connected to a vast network of European trade and exploration. The Norse settlers were familiar with the waters around Greenland, and they maintained contact with Norway and Iceland. Yet, by the 15th century, the Black Death had ravaged Europe, and political turmoil, including the decline of the Norse kingdoms, meant that trade and exploration routes were disrupted. Could the collapse of the greater European economy have contributed to the abandonment of the settlements in Greenland? There are also more speculative theories, some of which suggest that the colony's disappearance could be the result of mystical or supernatural causes. A few fringe theorists have even posited that the Norse settlers might have been involved in esoteric practices, or that they were part of a larger mystery, perhaps even a forgotten ancient civilization, whose knowledge or ways were lost to time. Were they trying to survive a mysterious phenomenon in the far north, one that defied their understanding of the world? Could there have been forces at work, both natural and supernatural, that we still don't fully comprehend? As with many historical mysteries, the absence of definitive answers only deepens the intrigue. While the mainstream theories suggest environmental collapse, social factors, and external pressures, there is still so much we don't know. Why did the Norse settlers leave behind such sophisticated infrastructure and technology only to abandon it completely? Did they simply die out, or did they adapt in ways we've yet to uncover? Were there survivors, perhaps hidden in Greenland's vast and rugged terrain, waiting to be discovered? The ruins of the Norse colony in Greenland lie in quiet decay, untouched by the passage of time but still holding secrets that seem reluctant to reveal themselves. With every excavation, with every new theory proposed, we are reminded that some mysteries are never truly solved. The lost colony of Greenland remains one of the most puzzling chapters in the story of human exploration and settlement. And perhaps, in time, the secrets of what really happened to the Norse settlers will emerge from the ice and snow, if only we know where to look. What remains hidden beneath the frozen earth? What will we uncover, if anything, that can answer the question of the lost colony? The silence of Greenland continues to echo, inviting us to search for answers that may never come. As we leave behind the icy, windswept ruins of the lost Norse colony in Greenland, we now find ourselves stepping into a world that existed centuries earlier, a place where the echoes of ancient civilizations still resonate through stone. We turn our attention to one of the most striking and enigmatic remnants of the ancient Near East, the Hittite Lion Gate. Situated at the entrance of the ancient Hittite capital of Hattusa, now modern-day Boğaz-Kale in central Turkey, the Lion Gate is a monumental structure that has captured the imagination of historians, archaeologists, and travelers for centuries. The gate, built around the 14th century BC, is one of the most well-preserved examples of Hittite architecture, and it stands as a testament to the power and skill of this once great empire. At first glance, the Lion Gate is a formidable sight. The entrance is flanked by two massive lion statues, each one carved with incredible detail. These fierce creatures, with their muscular bodies and piercing eyes, stand guard over the city, as if forever watching over the remnants of a once thriving civilization. The lions are imposing, their forms rendered in a way that seems both naturalistic and symbolic, as though they are not merely protectors of the city, but powerful guardians imbued with a sense of divine authority. The grandeur of the gate's design suggests that it was more than just a functional entrance. It was a symbol of the might and authority of the Hittite Empire, a statement that projected power, protection, and divine favor. But the Lion Gate holds more than just architectural significance. It is also shrouded in mystery. Its symbolism, purpose, and the role it played in the context of Hittite society remain a subject of debate. What were the lions meant to represent, and why were they chosen to stand as sentinels at the gates of this once great city? The Hittites themselves were a powerful and complex civilization that rose to prominence in the Late Bronze Age, around 1600 BC. They established one of the most influential empires in the ancient Near East, controlling much of Anatolia, parts of the Levant, and even reaching into northern Mesopotamia. At its height, the Hittite Empire was a formidable force, engaging in diplomacy and warfare with great powers like Egypt, Assyria, and Babylon. And yet, for all their power, the Hittites remain somewhat enigmatic to modern historians. Despite extensive archaeological evidence, much about the Hittites remains shrouded in mystery, particularly their religion, culture, and the intricacies of their political structure. The Lion Gate, with its monumental stone guardians, offers us only a glimpse into the world of the Hittites, inviting more questions than answers. One of the most persistent mysteries surrounding the gate is the symbolism of the lions themselves. In many ancient cultures, lions were associated with royalty, power, and the divine. In the case of the Hittites, the lions may have served as symbols of the king's strength and his divine right to rule. Lions were seen as protectors, fierce warriors that could ward off both physical and spiritual threats. Perhaps the Hittites believed that by placing these lion statues at the entrance to their city, they could ensure that no harm would befall them. But the symbolism could be even more profound. Were these lions guardians of something more than just the physical city? Could they have served as protectors of the soul, guarding the entryway to a sacred space or the domain of the gods? Some scholars have speculated that the Lion Gate was not only a ceremonial entrance but also a ritualistic gateway. In the ancient world, gates were often symbolic boundaries between the earthly realm and the divine. The Hittites, who were known for their complex pantheon of gods and rituals, may have viewed the Lion Gate as a threshold, marking the point where the human and divine worlds intersected. Could it have been designed to channel the protective power of the lions into the city, warding off evil and ensuring the continued favor of the gods? The Hittite pantheon itself is another source of intrigue. The Hittites were polytheistic, worshipping a variety of gods and goddesses, many of whom had their own domains of power. The lion, as a creature of strength and courage, could have been associated with several deities, both protective and warlike. Some scholars have even suggested that the lions at the gate could represent a dual aspect of the divine, the king as the earthly protector, and the gods as the celestial guardians. In this sense, the Lion Gate may have been more than just a physical structure. It could have been a ritual space that bridged the world of mortals and gods. Another mystery that surrounds the Lion Gate is its architectural purpose. While the gate itself is certainly awe-inspiring, it is also part of a larger network of fortifications that surrounded the city of Hattusa. The walls of the city are dotted with numerous gates, each one serving as an entry point to the urban heart of the Hittite capital. But what sets the Lion Gate apart from the others is its sheer scale and symbolic significance. Was it the main entrance to the city, or was it reserved for ceremonial purposes? Given the grandeur of the structure, it seems likely that the Lion Gate was not a simple functional entrance, but rather a symbolic and powerful statement about the city's strength and divine protection. Yet, for all its grandeur, the Lion Gate also stands as a reminder of the Hittite Empire's decline. Around the 12th century BC, the Hittite Empire fell into decline, beset by internal strife, external invasions, and the mysterious collapse of Bronze Age civilizations. Hattusa, once a thriving metropolis, was eventually abandoned and fell into ruins. The Lion Gate, though, remains standing, a silent sentinel to a civilization long gone. But why did the city fall? What forces led to the decline of the mighty Hittite Empire, and how did the Lion Gate, a symbol of strength, become a relic of the past? Could there have been a more mystical or spiritual element to the collapse of the Hittite civilization? While most historians point to economic turmoil, invasions by the so-called Sea Peoples, and internal decay as the main causes, there are some who suggest that the gods themselves may have abandoned the Hittites. After all, the Hittites were deeply religious, and their worldview was built on the concept of divine favor. The fall of Hattusa and the abandonment of the Lion Gate could be interpreted as a sign that the gods had turned away from the city and its rulers. Or perhaps the mystery is more practical than mystical. Was the Lion Gate, with its imposing statues, simply a relic of an earlier age, one that had lost its meaning by the time of Hattusa's fall? Did the gates and the lions, once symbols of divine protection, become obsolete as the city's fortunes shifted? As we stand before the Lion Gate today, it's impossible not to wonder. What stories lie hidden within the stones? What was the true purpose of these lion guardians, and why do they continue to stand, frozen in time, as a reminder of a civilization that has vanished? The Hittite Lion Gate remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of the ancient world, a doorway to a forgotten time, inviting us to explore not only the history of the Hittites, but the mysteries of power, divinity, and the forces that shape the rise and fall of empires. And as we gaze upon these ancient lions, we are left to ponder. What other secrets might still lie buried beneath the ruins of Hattusa, waiting to be uncovered? As we leave behind the imposing Lion Gate, we now turn our attention to a peculiar artifact, one that has confounded archaeologists and historians alike. Nestled in the quiet desert sands of Idaho, USA, a small, unassuming figurine has stirred debates that stretch across time, civilization, and the boundaries of our understanding. This is the story of the Nampa Figurine. In 1889, a worker at a well-digging site near Nampa, Idaho, unearthed a small clay figure while drilling about 320 feet underground. The figure, about 3 inches tall, is crafted in the shape of a human form, perhaps a woman, though some details are hard to decipher. The figurine has finely sculpted features, with a distinct face, arms, and legs. Its quality is remarkable, suggesting a degree of craftsmanship and artistry that might seem out of place for a people living in the region thousands of years ago. At first glance, the figurine may seem like just another relic of a past civilization, but there is something undeniably puzzling about it. The well from which it was excavated was deep, far deeper than one would expect to find any trace of ancient human civilization. The depth of the find, combined with the style of the figurine, has raised questions that continue to linger. Why was this object found so far underground, and how did it come to be buried in such an unusual location? The Nampa figurine has become one of the most enigmatic objects ever discovered in the American West. Mainstream explanations suggest it could be an artifact from a much later period, perhaps from an indigenous culture that lived in the region. However, many find this explanation unsatisfactory, particularly when we consider the geological context in which it was found. The well where the figurine was discovered had been drilled into Pleistocene-era sediment, which dates back at least 2 million years. This raises a fundamental question. How could a small clay figurine, crafted in the form of a human, have existed so far below the surface, buried under layers of earth that predate any known civilization in the Americas? The implications of this discovery are staggering. If the figurine is genuinely as old as the sediment suggests, it would suggest that human-like beings were living in the Americas long before the known indigenous cultures we associate with this land, cultures like the Clovis people, who lived around 13,000 years ago. It might also indicate a much more complex history of human migration and civilization than we have traditionally understood. For most of the 20th century, the Nampa figurine was regarded with skepticism by the scientific community. Skeptics pointed out that the figurine could have been a more recent object that had somehow been carried down into the well during the drilling process. They argued that the layer of sediment might not have been accurately dated, and that the figurine's supposed age was simply a misunderstanding or an artifact of the drilling process. After all, humans have long been known to scavenge and reuse materials, and the possibility that the figurine had been discarded or lost at a later date seemed plausible. Yet, even today, there are still those who insist that the Nampa figurine is genuine, and that it raises more questions than answers. If it is truly as old as the sediment suggests, it could be evidence of an unknown civilization that lived in North America long before the Clovis or even pre-Clovis cultures. Some proponents of this theory suggest that the figurine might be the product of an advanced ancient civilization, possibly predating any known cultures in the Americas. Others point to the artistic style of the figurine as a clue. The figure is clearly modeled with great care and attention to detail, suggesting that its creators had a sophisticated understanding of human form. This is far beyond what one might expect from a primitive culture or a society that is still in the early stages of human development. Could the figurine be evidence of a lost civilization, possibly even an ancient people who arrived in the Americas long before the Ice Age? Some fringe theories suggest that the figurine might even be evidence of transoceanic contact, the idea that ancient civilizations from distant parts of the world, such as Mesopotamia or Egypt, reached the Americas long before Columbus. Could this figurine be a remnant of such a lost culture, a piece of evidence that would force historians to rethink the entire timeline of human migration and civilization? Of course, these theories are speculative and remain controversial. No definitive evidence has yet been uncovered to support the idea that advanced civilizations existed in the Americas thousands of years ago, and the Nampa figurine remains an anomaly in the archaeological record. There are simply too many unanswered questions, and too many variables that make it difficult to form a clear picture of the past. Yet, the mystery of the Nampa figurine has not faded away. Even today, it remains a symbol of our ongoing search for answers to questions about human history. While mainstream archaeology continues to maintain that the figurine is a much more recent artifact, the implications of its discovery continue to linger. Could the figure be a remnant of a lost civilization that once thrived in North America? Or is it simply a piece of folk art, misinterpreted by the lens of modern science? The strange and mysterious circumstances surrounding the Nampa figurine are a reminder of how little we truly know about the distant past. Every discovery like this invites us to consider the possibility that we are only scratching the surface of the hidden history of our world. As we consider the Nampa figurine, we are left with more questions than answers. If the figure is indeed as old as the sediment suggests, what else might be hidden beneath the layers of earth, waiting to be uncovered? What might the figurine's true origins tell us about the people who once lived on this land, and how might it change our understanding of human history? The mystery of the Nampa figurine remains unsolved, yet it continues to beckon to us, urging us to keep searching for the forgotten corners of our world's past. What other forgotten artifacts lie buried, waiting to be rediscovered? What other truths, perhaps even more profound than we can imagine, are still hidden in the sands of time? Only time will tell. Time. As we leave behind the enigmatic Nampa figurine, we now journey deeper into the heart of Europe, where another mysterious artifact, shrouded in both ancient knowledge and celestial symbolism, challenges our understanding of prehistoric cultures. The object we turn to now is the Nebra Sky Disk, an artifact that has confounded scholars and archaeologists alike, raising more questions than it has answered since its discovery. In 1999, a group of treasure hunters in the German state of Saxony-Anhalt stumbled upon an extraordinary object buried in the earth. What they unearthed was a bronze disc, about 30 centimeters, roughly a foot, in diameter, inscribed with golden symbols that would spark one of the most fascinating mysteries of the ancient world. This object, later identified as the Nebra Sky Disk, appears to be not just a piece of art, but a sophisticated astronomical instrument, predating modern understandings of the heavens by thousands of years. At first glance, the disk seems almost simple, just a circular bronze surface. But as you study it closely, its intricate details begin to reveal themselves. In the center of the disk are what appear to be golden representations of the sun or a full moon, with a series of lines extending from the center, likely indicating lunar phases or celestial alignments. Surrounding the central motif are a series of smaller golden dots, which scholars believe represent stars, with a larger arc running across the top of the disk that may symbolize a solar eclipse or a connection to the path of the sun across the sky. The craftsmanship of the Nebra Sky Disk is remarkable. The gold inlays have been meticulously placed, and the patterns on the disk are thought to reflect the astronomical knowledge of a culture that lived around 1600 BC. The disk is thought to belong to the Unedis culture, a Bronze Age society in Central Europe, and it raises profound questions about their understanding of the cosmos. How did they possess such advanced astronomical knowledge, and why did they feel the need to encode this information in such a permanent and precise way? What is most fascinating about the Nebra Sky Disk is not just its artistic design, but its possible function. Was it purely symbolic, a sacred object used in religious ceremonies to represent the gods in the heavens? Or could it have served as a practical tool, perhaps used by ancient astronomers to track the movement of the sun, moon, and stars? The apparent alignment of the symbols suggests that the disk was a form of ancient star map, perhaps a tool for marking celestial events such as eclipses, solstices, and the cycles of the moon. The connection to the sky and to the stars is further emphasized by the apparent relationship the disk has with other ancient monuments in Europe, including Stonehenge and other megalithic structures. Some researchers suggest that the Nebra Sky Disk was not just a solitary artifact, but part of a larger astronomical tradition that spanned vast distances across ancient Europe. Could these early peoples have shared knowledge of the cosmos, using the stars to guide them not only in their spiritual lives, but in their daily existence as well? Were they attuned to the movements of the heavens in a way that we can scarcely imagine? There is a growing body of evidence that suggests that the Unedis culture and other contemporaneous Bronze Age societies had a remarkable understanding of astronomy. But where did this knowledge come from? Was it passed down through generations of ancient stargazers, or could it have been the product of contact with other advanced civilizations in distant parts of the world? Some speculate that the astronomical knowledge encoded in the Nebra Sky Disk could be the result of ancient trade or cultural exchanges, possibly with Mediterranean civilizations like the Egyptians or the Mesopotamians. But is this theory too speculative, or is there more to the story than we've yet uncovered? The Nebra Sky Disk does not exist in isolation. The discovery of the disk was part of a larger body of evidence that suggests a complex relationship between ancient peoples and the stars. Similar finds, such as the Gosek Circle, an ancient circular structure thought to be an observatory, point to a sophisticated understanding of celestial cycles. And yet, despite these findings, much of the evidence remains fragmentary, leaving us to piece together a picture of ancient sky watchers who may have understood the stars in ways that modern scientists are only beginning to comprehend. One of the most tantalizing features of the Nebra Sky Disk is the apparent solar symbolism that runs through its design. The golden disk in the center is widely interpreted as a representation of the sun, an object of immense significance in many ancient cultures. In fact, many archaeologists have drawn parallels between the symbolism on the disk and the mythology surrounding the sun, pointing to the centrality of solar deities in the spiritual lives of ancient Europeans. The addition of the lunar symbols and the eclipse-like arc suggests that this disk was used to track celestial events, possibly to mark key moments in the agricultural year, such as planting and harvesting seasons, which were often tied to the phases of the moon and the position of the sun. However, there is still much about the Nebra Sky Disk that remains a mystery. Despite ongoing research, there is no consensus on its exact purpose. Was it a tool of celestial observation, an early calendar, or a sacred object imbued with spiritual significance. Or perhaps it was something else entirely, a ritualistic object used in ceremonies designed to honor the heavens or the gods. What we do know is that this artifact offers us a glimpse into the astounding intellectual capabilities of the people who lived in Bronze Age Europe, a people who, despite being separated from us by thousands of years, shared a fascination with the stars and the cosmos that is still with us today. And yet, as we examine the Nebra Sky Disk, we are left with lingering questions. What other mysteries lie hidden within its complex design? Was it a part of a much larger tradition of celestial observation, one that spanned the ancient world and influenced later cultures? Or was it a product of a unique, isolated group whose knowledge was lost to time, leaving only this single disk as a testament to their understanding of the universe? In the end, the Nebra Sky Disk serves as a reminder of how little we truly know about the ancient peoples who came before us. It challenges our assumptions about the origins of astronomical knowledge and asks us to consider the possibility that ancient cultures were far more advanced in their understanding of the cosmos than we have traditionally given them credit for. Perhaps we are still only scratching the surface of what these ancient peoples knew about the stars. The mystery of the Nebra Sky Disk remains unsolved, but it continues to provoke deep reflection. As we contemplate its symbols and its possible functions, we are left wondering what else from the distant past remains hidden, waiting to be uncovered. What other secrets might the stars and the heavens hold for us, if only we can learn to look at them with the eyes of the ancients? As we leave behind the celestial symbols of the Nebra Sky Disk, we now journey to the cloud-covered highlands of Peru, where another mysterious relic of the past awaits. High in the Andes, in the remote and rugged landscape of the Chachapoya, a region known as the Land of the Cloud People, we find one of the most intriguing and enigmatic discoveries in South American archaeology, the Chachapoya Sarcophagi. The Chachapoya, an ancient civilization that flourished long before the Inca Empire arrived in the region, remains shrouded in mystery. Little is known about their origins, their culture, or their eventual fate, but their burial practices offer a fascinating window into their spiritual beliefs and social organization. Among the most striking features of Chachapoya funerary rituals are their sarcophagi, massive, elaborately carved burial chambers that house the remains of their elite. These sarcophagi, found perched on the cliff faces of the Utcubamba Valley and other remote areas in the Peruvian Andes, are unlike anything seen in other ancient cultures. The most famous of these burial sites are the Karagia sarcophagi, towering human-like figures that are said to hold the remains of the Chachapoya nobility. Each sarcophagus is constructed from wood, stone, and mud, shaped to resemble human forms and adorned with masks, feathered decorations, and intricate carvings that are both symbolic and protective. From the base of the cliffs, the figures appear almost like sentinels, standing guard over the valley below. Their broad faces, exaggerated features, and wide eyes give them a haunting, almost otherworldly presence, making it easy to understand why these sarcophagi have captured the imagination of both archaeologists and explorers for centuries. The sheer scale and effort involved in placing these massive burial structures atop cliffs, sometimes hundreds of meters above the ground, suggests that the Chachapoya people had a deep reverence for the dead, and perhaps an even deeper desire to separate their most important individuals from the earthly realm. But these sarcophagi raise profound questions. Why were they placed so high on cliff faces, in locations that seem almost impossible to reach? Was it merely a practical decision, meant to protect the bodies from looting or the elements? Or was it a symbolic act, elevating the dead closer to the heavens? The strategic positioning of the sarcophagi may offer clues about the Chachapoya's beliefs about life, death, and the afterlife. The elaborate nature of these tombs is remarkable. Inside the sarcophagi, archaeologists have discovered not only human remains, but also a variety of grave goods, items such as pottery, textiles, and tools, likely intended to accompany the deceased in the afterlife. The inclusion of these items speaks to a sophisticated worldview, one in which the journey beyond death was as significant as life itself. But why these particular items? What did they signify about the individual entombed inside? While much has been uncovered through excavation, the mystery of the Chachapoya sarcophagi is far from solved. The fact that they were hidden away in such remote and inaccessible locations suggests that the Chachapoya were both determined and deeply secretive. Were they attempting to shield their sacred rites from invaders, or were they creating a final resting place that could only be accessed by those who had been initiated into their spiritual traditions? The sarcophagi's placement at dizzying heights implies a spiritual connection to the mountainous landscape that surrounded them, perhaps a belief in the sacred nature of the cliffs themselves, or the idea that only the most elite members of society could be close to the heavens. Yet even more intriguing is the fact that the Chachapoya civilization remains somewhat of a mystery in its own right. Little is known about their language, their religious practices, or their interactions with neighboring cultures. Despite their significance in pre-Inca Peru, the Chachapoya were only fully integrated into the Inca Empire in the late 15th century, and after the Spanish conquest, they faded into obscurity. Their unique burial practices and impressive architectural feats suggest a people with a distinct cultural identity, one that may have been lost, or deliberately erased, by the forces of imperial conquest. Could the sarcophagi be the final traces of a forgotten civilization whose stories have been buried by time and conquerors? The relationship between the Chachapoya and the Inca is also a source of mystery. The Inca, with their vast empire and centralized power, conquered the Chachapoya in the late 1400s, but the two cultures seem to have maintained a level of separation. Some believe that the Chachapoya were a fiercely independent people who resisted Inca rule, while others suggest that the Chachapoya may have been incorporated into the Inca Empire without a great deal of conflict. Could their burial practices, so different from Inca traditions, have represented a form of resistance or defiance against the new rulers? Or were these tombs simply a continuation of long-established customs that persisted even under foreign rule? Some archaeologists have even speculated that the Chachapoya may have been involved in a kind of ritualistic death cult, a belief system that elevated the dead to a central role in their society. If the sarcophagi were intended to protect the deceased and elevate them to a higher plane, what does this tell us about how the Chachapoya viewed death and the afterlife? Were they trying to commune with their ancestors in a way that allowed the dead to intervene in the lives of the living, or perhaps even protect the community from harm? Despite the many questions surrounding these remarkable sarcophagi, one thing is certain. The Chachapoya were a people deeply connected to their land, to their ancestors, and to the heavens above. Their incredible ability to construct and position these tombs in such remote locations speaks to a profound understanding of their environment and a belief in the sacred nature of the places they chose to bury their dead. Yet, as we stand before these towering figures, carved in the likeness of their ancestors, we are left to wonder, what other mysteries lie hidden within the clouds of the Andes? What stories have been lost to time, buried beneath the weight of centuries and the forces of nature? The Chachapoya sarcophagi are only one piece of a much larger puzzle, a puzzle that challenges our understanding of ancient South American cultures and the complex spiritual beliefs that once shaped them. As the wind howls across the cliffs and the shadows of the sarcophagi stretch long into the valleys below, the mystery of the Chachapoya remains unsolved. Perhaps the answers we seek are not buried in the earth, but in the very stones and cliffs where these tombs were placed, waiting for us to rediscover the secrets of a people whose world is long gone, but whose spirit continues to linger in the clouds. As we leave behind the ancient, cloud-shrouded landscapes of the Chachapoya, we now find ourselves in the presence of one of the most confounding and elusive objects in the history of cryptography and linguistics, the Voynich manuscript. For centuries, this peculiar artifact has captivated the imagination of scholars, historians, and cryptographers alike, its pages filled with strange, indecipherable text and bizarre illustrations. The manuscript's origins, meaning, and purpose remain as elusive as ever, even after hundreds of years of study. The Voynich manuscript is a small 15th century book, thought to have been created sometime between 1404 and 1438, based on radiocarbon dating of the parchment. Its name derives from Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish-American bookseller who acquired the manuscript in 1912. But long before Voynich discovered it, the book had passed through the hands of a number of previous owners, including Emperor Rudolf II of the Holy Roman Empire, who believed it might contain secrets of alchemy or other mystical knowledge. But despite centuries of intrigue and investigation, no one has ever successfully decoded its text, and the manuscript's true meaning remains an enigma. The book itself is composed of 240 pages, though a few pages are now missing. It is written in an unknown script, a language that has baffled linguists and code breakers for generations. The letters appear to follow a consistent structure, suggesting that it is a real language. But despite this, no one has been able to find a similar language or alphabet that matches. The text's precise meaning remains beyond our grasp, defying even the most sophisticated cryptographic methods. Yet, it is not just the script that makes the Voynich manuscript so compelling. The pages are filled with highly unusual and vivid illustrations, many of which appear to depict unfamiliar plants, strange astronomical symbols, and mysterious human figures engaged in arcane rituals. The botanical drawings are especially puzzling because many of the plants depicted do not appear to correspond to any known species, yet they are drawn with an extraordinary degree of detail. The astronomical illustrations are similarly perplexing, suggesting that the manuscript might have been used to record celestial events or astrological charts, but the meaning of these symbols is equally obscure. Some of the illustrations seem to depict naked women bathing in large pools, surrounded by strange tubes or vessels that appear to be connected to the water. These images have led some to speculate that the manuscript may contain alchemical or mystical knowledge, possibly relating to the transformation of matter, while others suggest that the imagery might be symbolic, tied to an esoteric tradition that has since been lost to history. Yet even more puzzling are the biological depictions, particularly the illustrations of strange plants that do not resemble anything found in the natural world. Some have speculated that the plants are purely imaginative creations, perhaps designed to represent ideas or concepts rather than actual botanical species. But why would the author of the manuscript go to such lengths to create entirely new and unidentifiable plants? And what might these fantastical drawings tell us about the intentions or worldview of the manuscript's creator? The manuscript's journey from its creation to its discovery has also been a subject of much intrigue. Its exact origins remain unknown, but various theories attempt to explain where it came from and why it was created. Some believe it may have been the work of a single, highly educated author, possibly an alchemist or a scholar with access to secret knowledge. Others suggest that the manuscript could be the product of a group or even an entire school of thought, with the text representing a kind of codified knowledge that was meant to be understood only by a select few. The manuscript's journey to Europe in the 16th century remains a mystery. Rudolf II, a passionate collector of rare books and occult texts, purchased the manuscript in the late 1500s, convinced that it contained important secrets about alchemy and the natural world. But when the manuscript was presented to the best minds of the time, no one could decipher its text. In fact, some scholars and historians believe that Rudolf himself may have been a key figure in perpetuating the manuscript's mystique, perhaps using it as a prized possession to enhance his image as a seeker of hidden knowledge. Theories surrounding the manuscript's authorship are as varied as the images and symbols within it. Some researchers argue that the manuscript was created as a hoax, a carefully crafted piece of medieval art designed to confound and mystify, perhaps with the intention of impressing royalty or scholars. Others suggest that the manuscript might be the work of an unknown civilization, perhaps one that was advanced in ways we have yet to fully comprehend. Could the text be the remnants of a lost language, or even the result of an ancient secret society that encoded its knowledge in this cryptic manner to protect it from outsiders? One intriguing theory suggests that the manuscript may have been written in an early form of a language that is now completely extinct, potentially predating any known languages from the medieval period. This would mean that the Voynich manuscript could contain knowledge from an ancient culture that we have no record of, an astonishing possibility that continues to fuel speculation and debate. More fringe theories take a different turn altogether. Some suggest that the manuscript could be evidence of extraterrestrial contact, proposing that the unknown script and bizarre symbols might be a form of communication from beings beyond Earth. Others point to the strange illustrations of women bathing and the astronomical symbols as evidence of a lost civilization or a cult that practiced rites designed to communicate with the stars. Could the manuscript have been created by a people who had access to knowledge we have since lost, knowledge that was intentionally encoded to keep it hidden from the wider world? Despite the many theories, the Voynich manuscript remains as puzzling as ever. For every breakthrough in understanding, new questions seem to arise, and for every answer that scholars propose, new layers of complexity emerge. Even the most advanced cryptographic techniques, including modern computer algorithms and artificial intelligence, have failed to crack the code. Why was the manuscript created? Who wrote it, and for what purpose? Was it meant to be a record of knowledge, a magical grimoire, or an elaborate hoax? And perhaps most importantly, what does it say about our quest for understanding? The fact that something so intricate and enigmatic has survived for centuries, untouched and unexplained, reminds us how much we have yet to discover about the people and cultures that came before us. As we turn the pages of this ancient enigma, we are left to wonder, what is the Voynich manuscript truly trying to tell us? And what secrets are still hidden within its undecipherable text and strange illustrations, waiting to be unlocked by the curious minds of the future? The mystery, it seems, is far from over. As we leave behind the cryptic pages of the Voynich manuscript, we now turn our attention to something equally mysterious, yet perhaps more grounded in physical evidence. Deep in the heart of Mesopotamia, in a land once known for its rich history of ancient innovation, a peculiar object was discovered, an object that, when examined through the lens of modern science, raises far more questions than answers. This object, known as the Baghdad Battery, continues to baffle archaeologists and researchers alike, leaving many to wonder, could this ancient artifact have been an electrical device long before the advent of modern technology? The story of the Baghdad Battery begins in 1938, when a German archaeologist named Wilhelm Koenig uncovered a curious object at the ruins of Ctesiphon, an ancient city near modern-day Baghdad, Iraq. Koenig, who was working on the excavation of Parthian and Sasanian sites, came across a strange jar that appeared to be centuries old. What was unusual about this jar, however, was not its age, but its design. The object, which consisted of a ceramic pot, a copper cylinder, and an iron rod, looked strikingly similar to a modern galvanic cell, or what we now recognize as a simple battery. The jar itself was roughly the size of a wine bottle, made from ceramic and covered with a copper sheet that had corroded over the centuries. Inside the jar was a metal cylinder, which contained the iron rod, and when connected, the components seemed to function in a way that could produce electricity. In its most basic form, the Baghdad Battery resembled a voltaic pile, the first true battery invented by Alessandro Volta in 1800. The idea that an object with such a simple yet sophisticated design could have existed 2,000 years ago was both puzzling and fascinating. At first, Koenig did not claim that the object was a battery. Instead, he believed it could have been a ritual vessel or a storage container for something religious in nature. But over time, the object's resemblance to an electrical device became too compelling to ignore. In 1940, Koenig published his findings, noting the unusual nature of the object and suggesting that it might have had some use related to the generation of electricity. Yet, as simple as it seems, the question of what the Baghdad battery actually was and how it might have been used remains unanswered. Could it have been a form of ancient technology that we've forgotten or misinterpreted? Was it a tool used for religious ceremonies, as Koenig initially speculated, or could it have been a piece of scientific equipment? Could the ancient Mesopotamians, known for their advancements in astronomy, mathematics, and engineering, have had a rudimentary understanding of electricity? The idea that ancient civilizations might have understood electricity is not new, though it remains controversial. The Baghdad battery reignites debates about the potential technological sophistication of early human cultures. Some have suggested that the object could have been used as a simple galvanic cell, capable of producing a small electric current. In fact, when researchers attempted to replicate the device using the same materials, copper, iron, and vinegar, they found that it indeed produced a small amount of electricity, albeit not enough to power a modern device. What then was its purpose? Some have theorized that the Baghdad battery was used for electroplating, a process in which a layer of metal is deposited onto a surface using an electric current. This theory is based on the assumption that ancient civilizations might have had access to some rudimentary form of electrochemical knowledge. Could the Mesopotamians have used the Baghdad battery to create intricate gold or silver coatings on objects? Archaeological evidence suggests that electroplating was practiced in ancient times in other parts of the world, so could this device have been a precursor to more advanced techniques? However, many historians and archaeologists remain skeptical of this idea. The amount of electricity produced by the device would have been minuscule, likely not enough to power anything beyond a small chemical reaction. Some experts argue that the device was never intended to be a battery at all, but rather a storage vessel or container for scrolls, relics, or sacred objects. The presence of the metal cylinder and iron rod might have simply been coincidental, with no real function in mind beyond the physical structure of the jar. Another possibility is that the Baghdad battery had a ritualistic purpose. Many ancient cultures, particularly in Mesopotamia, used technology and objects in ways that had symbolic significance rather than practical utility. Could the copper and iron components have been part of a religious or spiritual practice? Some researchers have suggested that the battery-like object might have been used in temples or sacred spaces to represent the power of gods or divine forces. Could it have been used in ceremonies meant to invoke the power of the gods, much like ancient cultures used fire, water, or other elemental forces as symbols of power? Still, the idea that the Baghdad battery might have been a rudimentary form of electrical technology cannot be dismissed outright. The civilization of Mesopotamia, particularly the Sumerians and the Babylonians, was highly advanced in many areas, from mathematics and astronomy to engineering and medicine. Is it so difficult to imagine that they might have stumbled upon some form of rudimentary electrical technology, even if they did not fully understand it? The discovery of electrochemical processes could have been purely accidental, arising from experimentation with metals and liquids. Moreover, the idea of lost technologies or forgotten knowledge is not entirely far-fetched. Numerous examples from history show that advanced technologies were sometimes rediscovered only centuries later, after being lost to time. Could the Baghdad battery be one such forgotten piece of technology? Or, as some suggest, might it be evidence of outside influence, suggesting that ancient civilizations had contact with a technologically advanced culture, perhaps one with a deeper understanding of electricity? Despite many attempts to unravel its secrets, the true purpose of the Baghdad battery remains shrouded in mystery. Was it a tool for electroplating, a religious artifact, or something else entirely? Did it represent a scientific breakthrough, or was it simply a product of a culture's creativity, not entirely understood by modern researchers? The device raises as many questions as it answers, each one leading us to reconsider our assumptions about the technological capabilities of ancient civilizations. As we continue to search for answers, the Baghdad battery invites us to explore the tantalizing possibility that ancient cultures may have understood far more about the world around them than we have yet realized. The mystery, though far from solved, beckons us to look deeper into the past and consider how much knowledge may still be hidden, waiting to be rediscovered. What other secrets, buried beneath the sands of time, might yet emerge to challenge our understanding of history and human ingenuity? As we leave behind the echoes of ancient Mesopotamian mysteries, we now turn our attention to another ancient marvel, one that not only defies our understanding of the past, but also reminds us of the complexity and precision with which ancient civilizations viewed the cosmos. High in the jungles of the Yucatan Peninsula, in Mexico, stands one of the most impressive architectural feats of the ancient Maya, the ancient observatory of Chichen Itza, often referred to as El Caracol, the snail. Built by the Maya more than 1,000 years ago, El Caracol is a circular stone tower perched atop a pyramid, with windows and openings aligned with celestial bodies. As we approach the observatory, the first thing we notice is the structure's distinctive shape, a round, stone tower with narrow windows and slits that seem to reach toward the heavens. This structure, though small in comparison to the massive pyramids of Chichen Itza, still commands attention as a testament to the Maya's sophisticated understanding of the sky. Its very design suggests a deep connection between the Earth and the cosmos, a relationship that the Maya not only revered, but studied with remarkable precision. The name El Caracol derives from the spiral staircase that leads up to the top of the tower, a fitting metaphor for the dizzying heights to which the Maya pushed their astronomical knowledge. From this vantage point, the Maya priests or astronomers would have had an unobstructed view of the stars, planets, and celestial movements that governed their daily lives. What makes El Caracol even more fascinating is that it was designed with the specific purpose of observing the movements of the planet Venus, known to the Maya as the morning star, which held immense importance in their religious and cultural practices. The alignment of El Caracol with the heavens is more than just a simple observation platform. It was a sophisticated tool for tracking celestial events. The openings and windows of the structure are precisely positioned to allow the Maya to observe the movements of Venus as it rose and set in the sky, and to chart its path through the night sky. Venus, in many ancient cultures, was considered a symbol of duality, both a morning star and an evening star, appearing at opposite ends of the day. For the Maya, Venus was more than just an astronomical object. It was deeply entwined with their mythology, a symbol of both creation and destruction. However, the precise function of El Caracol and the exact methods the Maya used to track the stars are still a subject of much speculation. The ancient Maya were among the first to develop a detailed calendar system based on the movements of celestial bodies, including Venus, the Moon, and the Sun. They used these observations to guide everything from agricultural practices to religious ceremonies. But how exactly did they achieve such remarkable accuracy without the tools of modern astronomy? Was it purely empirical observation, or did the Maya possess a more advanced understanding of the cosmos than we give them credit for? One of the most intriguing aspects of El Caracol is the sheer level of precision involved in its construction. The alignment of the structure with Venus's movements is so exact that it has led some researchers to speculate that the Maya may have had access to techniques and tools far more advanced than we originally believed. For instance, El Caracol's structure is positioned so that its windows align perfectly with the setting position of Venus on the horizon at certain times of the year. The ability to predict such phenomena with such precision suggests that the Maya must have had a deep understanding of celestial cycles and a sophisticated knowledge of mathematics and geometry. But even more mysterious are the theories surrounding the purpose of the observatory. While it is widely accepted that El Caracol was used for astronomical observations, some speculate that it may have had more esoteric purposes. Did it serve as a ritualistic center, where priests and shamans could channel the power of the stars and planets for spiritual or political purposes? Could the Maya have believed that Venus, with its rising and setting cycles, represented a cosmic gateway, a portal through which they could commune with the gods or predict future events? And if this was the case, what might we be missing in our understanding of their rituals and beliefs? In addition to its religious significance, El Caracol may also have played a critical role in the socio-political landscape of Chichen Itza. The Maya were a people deeply concerned with the alignment of their lives to the cosmos, and the movements of the stars, especially Venus, may have had a direct impact on the political power of rulers. There are indications that the appearance of Venus was used to time key events, such as battles, ceremonies, and even eclipses that were seen as omens or divine signals. Was the observatory used by the elite to assert their power by tying their rule to the heavens? Could the movements of Venus have been used as a tool of control, reinforcing the ruler's claims to divine legitimacy? Yet, despite all the evidence of the Maya's sophisticated astronomical knowledge, there are still many unanswered questions. The most puzzling of these is the apparent disappearance of the advanced astronomical practices that were so central to Maya civilization. By the time the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, many of the great Maya cities had already been abandoned, and much of their knowledge had been lost or destroyed. Did the people of Chichen Itza and other Maya cities have knowledge that was simply wiped out by the forces of conquest and colonization? Or did they abandon their astronomical practices for some other reason, perhaps as their society began to unravel? The mystery of El Caracol also speaks to a deeper question about the nature of ancient civilizations. How much of their knowledge and understanding of the world has been lost to time? The precision with which the Maya built El Caracol suggests that they may have been in possession of knowledge that was not just practical, but also spiritual, offering them a deeper connection to the universe. Could there be more secrets embedded within the architecture of Chichen Itza, or is El Caracol simply a single piece of a much larger puzzle, waiting to be uncovered? As we stand in the shadow of the ancient observatory, the stones around us seem to whisper of a time long gone, when the Maya looked to the heavens to find answers to the mysteries of life. The observatory, though weathered by time, remains a testament to their quest for knowledge, and perhaps to the eternal human desire to understand the universe and our place within it. Yet, as we peer through the ancient windows, aligning our gaze with the stars, just as the Maya did centuries ago, we are reminded that the questions they sought to answer are still with us today. What knowledge did the Maya possess, and why did it vanish? And most importantly, what mysteries of the cosmos might still be waiting to be unlocked, if only we had the keys to understand them? The ancient observatory of Chichen Itza, El Caracol, invites us to look beyond the earthly realm, to contemplate the celestial forces that guided the Maya, and to wonder what other ancient wisdom lies buried in the stones and ruins of civilizations long past. The enigma remains, as it always has, waiting to be discovered. As we transition from the skies above Chichen Itza, where the Maya looked toward the heavens, we now descend into the depths of ancient history to a mysterious collapse that has confounded scholars for centuries: the fall of the Minoan civilization. Nestled on the island of Crete, the heart of the ancient Aegean world, the Minoans were once a prosperous, technologically advanced people. Their civilization flourished around 1450 BC, a beacon of culture, art, and influence that spread across the Mediterranean. Yet, despite their remarkable achievements, the Minoans vanished from history, leaving behind only remnants of their stunning palaces, intricate frescoes, and enigmatic artifacts. What caused their abrupt decline remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the ancient world. The remains of their most prominent city, Knossos, stand as a testament to their once dominant culture. Walking through the labyrinthine corridors of the palace, with its striking murals and advanced drainage systems, it is easy to imagine a vibrant society at the peak of its power. The Minoans were known for their sophisticated architecture, including multi-story buildings, elaborate sewage systems, and an early form of writing known as Linear A. Their art depicted vivid scenes of life, with striking images of bulls, dancers, and nature, suggesting a society that celebrated life, fertility, and the natural world. The Minoans, however, left no written records to explain their downfall. The cause of their collapse remains a mystery that continues to perplex historians, archaeologists, and scholars. One of the most prominent theories regarding the fall of the Minoan civilization points to the volcanic eruption that occurred on the island of Santorini, then known as Thera, around 1600 BC. The eruption was one of the most powerful in recorded history, with evidence of catastrophic ash deposits found across the region. The explosion would have sent tsunamis crashing across the Aegean Sea, destroying coastal settlements, including those on Crete. The eruption would have released vast amounts of volcanic ash into the atmosphere, potentially leading to a volcanic winter, a period of significant climatic disruption. The aftermath of the eruption would have affected agriculture and the Minoan economy, leading to a breakdown in the social and political structures that had once supported their society. It is easy to see how such an event could have weakened the Minoans and left them vulnerable to outside forces. The eruption's timing, coming near the height of their power, could explain the initial decline in their influence. Yet, despite the volcanic eruption's apparent devastation, the Minoans themselves seem to have survived the immediate aftermath. The evidence suggests that it was not the eruption alone, but perhaps the combination of multiple factors that led to their eventual fall. Was it the environmental changes caused by the eruption that led to their decline, or was something else at play? The volcanic winter could have disrupted agriculture, but it did not fully eradicate the Minoans. Could there have been a more gradual unraveling of their society, one that took place over decades, or even centuries? The collapse of the Minoans does not appear to have been sudden. There is evidence of gradual social disintegration, with the large palaces that once symbolized their power beginning to show signs of abandonment and decay. The once thriving cities of Crete, like Knossos, began to fall into ruin. But why? Some theorists suggest that the Minoan downfall could have been brought on by internal strife, a breakdown in the political and social order that had once held the civilization together. Could the Minoan ruling elite have been overthrown by rival factions? Or did the elite itself begin to crumble under the strain of external pressures, such as trade disruptions or invasions? While the archaeological record shows evidence of violent conflict in later Minoan sites, the signs of overthrow are not as obvious as one might expect. Were the Minoans truly the victims of internal collapse? Or was there something more mysterious at play? One possibility that has captured the imagination of many is the theory that the Minoans were destroyed by foreign invaders, particularly the Mycenaeans, a Greek-speaking people who were rising to power at the time. Evidence from the archaeological site of Pylos, an ancient Mycenaean city, reveals that the Mycenaeans were in contact with Crete. Some scholars speculate that, seeing the Minoan civilization in decline, the Mycenaeans could have taken advantage of this weakness and launched an invasion, overwhelming the Minoans in their weakened state. The theory suggests that once the Mycenaeans took over the Minoan cities, the Minoan culture may have been absorbed into the Mycenaean world, or possibly eliminated altogether. But is this theory plausible? Could the Minoans, with their advanced culture, have fallen so easily to external invaders? Evidence shows that the Minoans had military fortifications, but these were not as heavily developed as the fortresses of their Mycenaean counterparts. It is also possible that the collapse of the Minoans was a slow and multifaceted process, not a single event or invasion, but rather a confluence of environmental, social, and political pressures that gradually weakened their grip on power. Yet, there is another, more enigmatic theory that continues to captivate those who study the Minoan collapse: the possibility of a mystical or supernatural cause. Some have suggested that the Minoans were the victims of some form of cosmic disaster, perhaps a meteor impact or even a curse. The Minoans were known for their religious rituals, which often involved the worship of gods tied to natural forces like the sun, the moon, and the sea. Could it be that their downfall was seen as the result of divine retribution, a punishment for some forgotten sin or transgression? Though this idea is largely speculative and not grounded in tangible evidence, the sheer complexity of Minoan religion and their intricate connections to the natural world makes this theory one that still lingers in the minds of some historians. As we stand on the shores of the ancient Minoan cities, surrounded by the ruins of a once great civilization, we cannot help but feel a sense of awe at their achievements and a lingering sense of mystery at their disappearance. The Minoans built with such precision, with such beauty, yet their civilization seems to have vanished almost as suddenly as it arose. Whether it was the eruption of Santorini, a foreign invasion, or internal collapse, the causes behind the fall of the Minoan civilization remain elusive. One thing is certain: the Minoans left behind a legacy of wonder and unanswered questions. The grand palaces, the intricate artwork, and the mysterious language they left behind continue to fascinate and confound those who seek to understand their world. But perhaps the greatest mystery of all is not what caused the Minoans to fall, but what we still do not know about their civilization. What secrets might still lie hidden beneath the rubble of their abandoned cities, waiting to be uncovered. The enigma of the Minoan civilization's collapse remains unresolved, an enduring riddle from the distant past that continues to inspire both wonder and speculation. And as we search for answers, we are reminded that not all mysteries can be solved. Some, it seems, are meant to remain lost to time. As we leave behind the ruins of the Minoan civilization, the waves of time carry us eastward, across continents and oceans, to the misty landscapes of southern China, where another great enigma lies hidden beneath the earth: the Longyou Caves. Located in the Zhejiang province, these artificial caves are as remarkable for their scale as they are for the mystery surrounding their origins. Carved into the bedrock of the surrounding hills, the Longyou Caves are a network of over 30 underground chambers, some reaching depths of over 30 meters. What is most striking about these caves, however, is not just their size, but their precision and mystery, the sheer sophistication of their construction, and the fact that they remain largely unexplained. The first recorded discovery of the caves dates back to the 1990s, when local farmers stumbled upon an entrance, revealing what appeared to be an ancient, subterranean world. These caves, stretching across a vast area, are not natural formations. They are the result of meticulous, human hands. The walls of the chambers are smooth and regular, as though they were carved with tools designed for the purpose. The ceilings are vaulted and high, allowing for easy movement through the spaces. Yet, despite the obvious human effort involved, there is no record of their construction in any historical texts. How and why were these caves built, and who were the people responsible? What we know about the Longyou Caves is both fascinating and perplexing. The caves appear to have been carved primarily from sandstone, a soft yet durable rock that would have made the task of excavation both physically demanding and time-consuming. It is believed that the caves were created using a combination of primitive tools, most likely simple hammers and chisels, as there is no evidence of any advanced technology, such as drilling machinery, being used. The caves are designed with a remarkable sense of symmetry and uniformity. The walls are often shaped into smooth, linear patterns, and many of the chambers are perfectly rectangular, their sizes and proportions seeming to follow an intentional blueprint. The size of the caves is one of their most striking features. Some of the largest chambers are hundreds of square meters in size, with ceilings that soar up to 20 meters high. These chambers are large enough to have housed entire communities, yet there is no evidence of any civilization ever living within them. Instead, the caves appear to have been abandoned long before they could serve any practical or communal function. This raises a fundamental question. Why would such a monumental project have been undertaken, and why would it have been left unfinished? As we delve deeper into the mystery of the Longyou caves, we must acknowledge the scarcity of information. Despite being one of the most striking archaeological sites in China, the Longyou caves are surrounded by a cloud of secrecy. For many years, access to the caves was tightly restricted, with only a handful of researchers granted permission to study them. This secrecy has only fueled speculation and intrigue about their origins and purpose. There are no written records, no inscriptions, no carvings or symbols inside the caves that could explain their purpose. The only clues we have are the structure and design of the caves themselves, which appear to follow a logic and precision that would be expected from a highly organized society. Some researchers have suggested that the caves were created as underground storage facilities, possibly to preserve food or other valuable resources. Others have proposed that they served as ritualistic spaces, used for religious ceremonies or spiritual practices. The caves could have also functioned as fortresses, offering protection from potential invaders. But despite these plausible theories, none of them fully explains the grandeur of the Longyou caves. Why go to such lengths to carve out these enormous, elaborate spaces? And why, once they were completed, would they be abandoned, leaving behind no trace of human habitation? One possibility is that the Longyou caves were created as a form of ritual or religious symbolism, much like other ancient structures built in places that held spiritual significance. In many ancient cultures, subterranean spaces were seen as gateways to the underworld, the realm of ancestors and gods. Could the Longyou caves have served a similar purpose, representing a spiritual journey or the connection between the living and the dead? Some have even suggested that the caves could be linked to the ancient belief in the afterlife, offering a place of reflection or communion with the divine. Another, more speculative theory suggests that the caves may have been built to reflect the astrological knowledge of the people who created them. The smooth, regular patterns in the walls and ceilings could be indicative of an effort to map the stars or the movements of the planets. Were the Longyou caves designed as a massive astronomical observatory, or as a representation of the cosmos? While this theory remains unsubstantiated, it is not entirely out of the realm of possibility, especially given the sophistication of other ancient structures like the Great Pyramids of Egypt or the Machu Picchu site, which were also closely aligned with celestial events. There are also theories that place the origins of the caves much earlier than commonly believed. Some have suggested that the Longyou caves may predate any known Chinese civilization, perhaps even tracing their origins to a lost culture from the distant past. Could these caves have been built by an advanced society whose knowledge and technology have been lost to time? Could the Longyou caves be remnants of an ancient, forgotten civilization, one that disappeared without leaving a trace in the historical record? The mystery deepens when we consider the materials used in the construction of the caves. The sandstone found in the caves is not local to the area. It is believed that the material was sourced from a great distance, suggesting that the people who built the caves had access to sophisticated methods of transportation. Yet, there is no evidence of any quarrying operations or mining activity near the caves themselves. How did the builders of the Longyou caves obtain the materials they needed? and what drove them to build such a monumental structure in relative isolation. Despite extensive research and speculation, the true purpose and origins of the Longyou caves remain elusive. What we know is that they are a stunning achievement, a testament to the craftsmanship and ingenuity of their builders. Yet, their purpose continues to defy explanation. Were they part of a larger architectural project, or did they serve as isolated individual creations? And why, after such an immense effort, were they left abandoned, their intended function lost to the sands of time? As we step back from the enigmatic halls of the Longyou caves, we are left with more questions than answers. The caves remain one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of ancient China. In a world where history is often recorded in text and stone, the silence of the Longyou caves speaks volumes. What secrets lie hidden beneath their smooth walls? And will the day come when we finally unlock the full story behind one of the most perplexing archaeological wonders in the world? For now, the Longyou caves stand as a monument to mystery, reminding us that not all answers are within our grasp, and some of the world's oldest riddles may never be solved. As we step away from the mysterious depths of the Longyou caves, we find ourselves once again standing at the crossroads of history, where the past and present collide in search of a story that has yet to be fully told. And there are few stories as captivating and elusive as that of the lost tomb of Alexander the Great. The tomb of Alexander the Great, the mighty conqueror who forged one of the largest empires in ancient history, has remained hidden for centuries. The enigma of its location has sparked heated debates and countless searches, with historians, archaeologists, and adventurers alike attempting to solve this one of history's greatest puzzles. Yet despite the vast knowledge we have accumulated about Alexander's life, the final resting place of the man who changed the world remains shrouded in mystery. To understand the significance of this search, it's essential to first grasp the monumental scale of Alexander's legacy. Born in 356 BC in Pella, the ancient capital of Macedonia, Alexander the Great embarked on an extraordinary journey of conquest, sweeping across Asia Minor, the Levant, Persia, and into India, leaving behind an empire stretching from the shores of Greece to the banks of the Indus River. His achievements were nothing short of legendary. He defeated armies many times his size, laid the foundation for the Hellenistic era, and spread Greek culture across vast regions. But Alexander's sudden death in 323 BC, at the young age of 32, left the ancient world reeling. No one could have anticipated the loss of such a towering figure. His death was a blow to an empire that had been in the process of consolidation and expansion. How and why Alexander died remain topics of intense speculation. Was it disease, poison, or something more mysterious? Whatever the cause, his untimely passing led to a chaotic struggle for control of his empire, and his final resting place became a focal point of power and prestige. In the wake of his death, his body was initially preserved and placed in a golden sarcophagus, transported to Egypt, where the city of Alexandria was founded. For centuries, the tomb of Alexander the Great was one of the most famous monuments in the ancient world, attracting visitors from across the Mediterranean and beyond. It was said that powerful figures such as Julius Caesar and Emperor Augustus paid their respects to the great conqueror, visiting his tomb and offering tributes. However, after the fall of the Ptolemaic kingdom in the 1st century BC, the tomb of Alexander began to fade into obscurity. By the time Strabo, the Greek geographer and historian, wrote about it in the 1st century AD, the tomb had already disappeared from historical records. And with its disappearance, a great mystery was born. Where was Alexander's tomb? The most widely accepted theory is that the tomb was located somewhere in Alexandria, the city founded by Alexander himself. Indeed, the tomb was said to have been housed in a memorial complex located in the heart of the city, possibly near the royal quarter, where Alexander's sarcophagus was placed. Over the centuries, the location of the tomb was described in various accounts, often with striking consistency. However, no archaeological evidence has ever confirmed its exact site. One of the key pieces of evidence comes from ancient texts that describe a grand mausoleum surrounded by ornate columns and a beautiful temple-like structure. The most vivid description comes from the Roman poet Lucan, who wrote about the tomb's magnificence. According to historical sources, the tomb was not only a place of burial, but also a site of great reverence, where people could gather to honor the memory of the man who had reshaped the ancient world. This image of the tomb as a place of immense grandeur and historical importance persisted for centuries, yet, despite numerous searches, no definitive archaeological evidence has been found to confirm the tomb's exact location. As we continue our exploration, we must ask, what happened to the tomb? Could it have been destroyed, lost, or deliberately hidden over time? Some theories suggest that the tomb was either dismantled or repurposed in later periods. One possibility is that the tomb was lost in antiquity, buried under the layers of time, as Alexandria itself was frequently rebuilt and redeveloped throughout the centuries. Others believe that the tomb may have been looted or desecrated, especially during the Christianization of the Roman Empire, when many pagan monuments were destroyed or repurposed for Christian uses. But there are other theories, more speculative, that suggest the tomb may have been deliberately hidden or concealed for reasons of political or religious significance. One theory posits that, in the wake of Alexander's death and the turmoil that followed, his tomb was deliberately hidden by those in power to prevent further exploitation or dispute over his remains. It is not beyond reason that, in a time of great political upheaval, the tomb could have been deliberately obscured in order to ensure that Alexander's legacy remained untarnished by those who might seek to use it for personal gain. In addition to the destruction theory, another popular idea revolves around the possibility that Alexander's tomb may still be hidden somewhere beneath the streets of Alexandria, undiscovered by modern archaeologists. Despite extensive excavations in the city, including in the Soma, the royal necropolis of Alexandria, no trace of the tomb has been found. Some suggest that the tomb may lie beneath later construction, lost to time but perhaps still waiting to be uncovered. The search continues, with the tomb seen as a potential holy grail of archaeological discovery. Could it be that, in the labyrinthine layers of Alexandria's urban sprawl, Alexander's final resting place is still buried beneath the sands of history? Adding to the intrigue is the fact that several sites in Alexandria have been proposed as possible locations for the tomb, each offering tantalizing clues but no definitive proof. One site is the Serapeum, a temple complex dedicated to the Egyptian god Serapis, which was said to house Alexander's tomb for a time. Excavations in this area have yielded intriguing discoveries, but they have not confirmed the presence of Alexander's remains. Another potential site is the Pompey's Pillar, a towering Roman column that stands alone in the desert outside Alexandria. Some have speculated that this pillar, which was erected in honor of the Roman Emperor Diocletian, might be a marker for the tomb's location. Despite all the theories and speculation, the truth remains elusive. The mystery of the lost tomb of Alexander the Great endures, one of the most enduring riddles of ancient history. Did Alexander's tomb fall into the hands of looters, or was it hidden to protect his legacy? Was it buried by the sands of time, or does it still lie waiting beneath the modern city of Alexandria, untouched and undiscovered? What is certain, however, is that the search for Alexander's final resting place continues to captivate the imagination of historians, archaeologists, and treasure hunters alike. For as long as the tomb remains lost, the mystery of one of history's most powerful figures will remain unsolved, inviting speculation and fascination for generations to come. And in the end, we are left with one haunting question. Will we ever uncover the tomb of Alexander the Great? or will it remain forever hidden in the depths of history, its secrets waiting to be discovered? As we transition from the uncertainty of Alexander's final resting place, we now turn to one of the most enduring and captivating mysteries of all time, the Great Pyramid of Giza, an ancient wonder whose secrets have fascinated explorers, historians, and scientists for millennia. Towering above the arid sands of Egypt, the Great Pyramid, also known as the Pyramid of Khufu, or Cheops, stands as a testament to the architectural brilliance of an ancient civilization. But beneath its towering exterior lies a mystery that has yet to be fully understood: the enigma of the hidden chamber within its structure. Built around 2580 BC, the Great Pyramid was originally constructed as the tomb of Pharaoh Khufu. It stands as the largest of the three pyramids in the Giza necropolis, measuring an astonishing 146 meters in height, an architectural feat that has baffled engineers and architects throughout history. The pyramid was constructed using over 2 million limestone blocks, each weighing several tons, and it is estimated that it took 20 years to complete. Yet, despite the immense scale and grandeur of the Great Pyramid, there is still so much about it that remains unknown. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Great Pyramid is its internal layout. On the surface, the structure appears straightforward: 4 grand faces, a massive base, and a sharp, angled peak. Yet, inside, the pyramid contains a series of corridors, chambers, and shafts, many of which have baffled researchers. The King's Chamber, where Khufu's sarcophagus once lay, is the most famous, as well as the Queen's Chamber, which remains largely unexplored. But it is the possibility of a hidden chamber, one that has yet to be discovered or fully explored, that continues to capture the imagination of those who study the pyramid. For centuries, the Great Pyramid has yielded few clues about this elusive chamber, but recent investigations have led to the tantalizing possibility that something lies hidden deep within the structure, waiting to be uncovered. What lies behind the walls of the Great Pyramid? What is hidden in its labyrinthine interior that has evaded detection for so long? In the early 21st century, a series of groundbreaking discoveries raised the specter of a hidden chamber within the Great Pyramid. In 2017, a team of scientists using cosmic ray imaging technology made an astonishing breakthrough. By analyzing the pyramid structure using a technique known as muon tomography, researchers were able to detect a large void within the pyramid, something that had never been observed before. This technology uses the natural bombardment of muons, a type of subatomic particle, to map the internal structure of large objects. The results revealed a previously undetected cavity, potentially the size of a large room, hidden deep within the pyramid. At first glance, this discovery seemed to be just another chapter in the long history of mystery surrounding the pyramid. But as researchers examined the data further, they realized that this void, positioned above the Grand Gallery, could be far more significant than they had originally anticipated. The placement of this mysterious cavity suggests that it may be linked to the pyramid's original purpose, perhaps serving as a passage, an extension of the king's chamber, or even a repository for treasures meant to accompany the pharaoh into the afterlife. However, the discovery of the hidden chamber only deepened the mystery. Why had it remained undetected for so long? Could it have been intentionally concealed, or was it simply overlooked in past studies of the pyramid? Some believe that this chamber could hold the key to understanding the true purpose of the Great Pyramid and how it was constructed, but others argue that the mystery may be even more complex than we realize. One theory suggests that the hidden chamber could have been intended as a final resting place for Khufu, meant to be kept secret to protect the pharaoh's remains from grave robbers. In ancient Egypt, tombs were often designed with hidden or underground chambers to safeguard the treasures and bodies within them. Could it be that this concealed void was part of a more elaborate burial complex, designed to keep the king's final resting place unknown to all but a select few? Another theory posits that the void is linked to the pyramid's astrological significance. Ancient Egyptians were deeply interested in the heavens, and many of their monumental structures, including the pyramids, were aligned with the stars. Could this hidden chamber have been designed to serve as a celestial marker, reflecting the position of the stars, or a specific astronomical event? Perhaps this secret chamber was meant to align with the stars at a precise moment in time, further reinforcing the pyramid's connection to the divine and to the afterlife. But as we explore the possibilities, there remains a question that haunts every theory. What purpose does the hidden chamber truly serve, and why was it concealed in the first place? The lack of concrete answers has given rise to a variety of more speculative theories, each as fascinating as the last. Some have suggested that the chamber could have been a ritual space, used for religious ceremonies related to Khufu's journey into the afterlife. Others have proposed that it could be a repository for sacred texts, magical objects, or religious relics, items intended to assist the pharaoh in his passage to the next world. The mystery of the hidden chamber is compounded by the fact that so little is known about the pyramid's original purpose. Was it simply a tomb? Or was it a complex, multifunctional structure with purposes that extended far beyond burial? The question of the hidden chamber's existence also raises larger, more fundamental issues about the construction of the pyramid itself. For decades, Egyptologists have debated how the ancient Egyptians were able to achieve such an astounding feat of engineering with the technology available to them. Some argue that the Great Pyramid was the product of a highly organized labor force and advanced knowledge of mathematics and astronomy, while others have posited more unconventional theories, such as the involvement of lost technologies or even extraterrestrial assistance. Could the hidden chamber be another clue that helps unravel the mystery of how the Great Pyramid was constructed and what knowledge was buried within its walls? Despite years of excavation and study, the Great Pyramid's secrets continue to evade us. While the discovery of the hidden chamber through muon tomography is groundbreaking, it has only added to the mystery, rather than providing clear answers. Researchers remain divided on the significance of the void, and plans for further exploration are still underway. Could the hidden chamber contain untold treasures, inscriptions, or artifacts that would reveal the true purpose of the pyramid? Or will it remain a silent, inaccessible void, forever locked behind walls that have withstood the test of time? One thing is certain: the mystery of the Great Pyramid's hidden chamber remains unsolved. As new technology and exploration methods continue to be developed, it's possible that we may one day uncover the secrets buried within the Great Pyramid. But for now, the enigmatic void within the pyramid stands as a symbol of all that remains unknown, inviting us to ponder the mysteries of the ancient world and to wonder what other secrets lie hidden just beneath the surface, waiting to be revealed. What awaits within the walls of the Great Pyramid? Only time, and perhaps further discoveries, will tell. As we continue our journey through the bizarre mysteries of history, we now turn our attention to the mysterious stone spheres of Costa Rica, enigmatic objects that have baffled archaeologists, historians, and visitors for over half a century. Hidden deep within the Diquís Delta in southern Costa Rica, these perfectly round stone spheres, some as large as 2.5 meters in diameter, have captivated those who stumble upon them, and for good reason. No one knows exactly how they were made, who created them, or why they were placed in the specific locations where they were found. The first of these spheres were discovered by accident in the 1930s, when workers clearing the land for a banana plantation began to encounter the smooth, spherical rocks buried deep beneath the surface. What followed was an era of curiosity, exploration, and wild speculation. Since then, over 300 stone spheres have been uncovered across the region, scattered throughout Costa Rica's Diquís Delta and surrounding areas, though many remain hidden beneath the soil, waiting to be uncovered. At first glance, the stones seem relatively simple, large, nearly perfect spheres of rock, some weighing several tons. Their smooth surface gleams faintly in the sunlight, and their size ranges from the size of a melon to as large as a small car. In some cases, the spheres are entirely intact, while others are cracked or shattered. But it is their precision and their placement that make them so perplexing. The vast majority of the spheres exhibit a level of craftsmanship that suggests they were intentionally shaped. No random geological processes could account for their perfect symmetry. The mysterious origins of the stones are further compounded by the fact that the local Dikis people who lived in the region centuries ago left no written records. While it is clear that these spheres were crafted by the indigenous population of the area, there are still no definitive answers as to how they achieved such a remarkable level of precision or what purpose these objects served. Archaeologists believe that the spheres were created by the pre-Columbian peoples who lived in the region, though their exact methods remain unknown. It is thought that these people used a combination of rudimentary tools and methods, possibly including stone tools and even fire, to shape the spheres from a variety of local rocks, including granite and limestone. Some of the larger spheres would have required a considerable amount of effort, with people possibly working for months or years to shape the stones into their near-perfect roundness. But how did they manage to achieve such precision without modern technology or tools? One theory is that the stone spheres were created by using simple tools such as abrasive stones, which would have been rubbed against the surfaces of the rocks over time. This technique could have smoothed out the rough edges and brought the stones closer to the perfect spheres that we see today. But the task of shaping these stones to such an exact degree, without the aid of any advanced equipment, raises the question, how could a relatively small, isolated civilization have possessed the knowledge and skill to create such objects? The mystery does not end with the creation of the spheres. The placement of the stones adds another layer of intrigue. Many of the spheres have been found in specific arrangements, either in clusters or near significant archaeological sites. Some appear to have been deliberately positioned along certain lines, leading some to speculate that they may have been used for astronomical purposes. Could these stones have been arranged to mark the position of the stars, to track the movements of the sun, or perhaps to align with certain celestial events? Others have suggested that the stone spheres may have held ritual significance. In pre-Columbian cultures, stone objects were often imbued with spiritual and symbolic meaning, and these spheres could have represented something far more profound than just stone sculptures. Could the spheres have been used in ceremonial practices, as objects of worship, or even as markers for sacred or important locations? As we dig deeper into the mystery of the stone spheres of Costa Rica, a number of theories have emerged about their potential function. One theory suggests that the spheres were used as territorial markers. In an era when territorial disputes were frequent, it is conceivable that these large stones were placed in key locations to demarcate boundaries or claim land. However, no evidence has been found to suggest that these stones were ever used in any kind of structured political manner. Could they have been purely symbolic, representing something intangible, something that only the people of the time could understand? Another popular theory involves the cosmic significance of the spheres. Given that many ancient cultures, including the Egyptians and the Mayans, designed their architecture and artifacts based on astronomical alignments, it's possible that the stones were constructed as part of a more elaborate cosmological belief system. Some researchers have even speculated that these spheres could have been used as models of the celestial sphere, with their round shape mirroring the roundness of the heavens. This theory would explain why the spheres were so carefully placed in certain locations, perhaps to align with the movements of the sun, the moon, or other celestial bodies. As we consider the possible meanings behind these spheres, we must also confront the unanswered question of their creators. It is widely accepted that the spheres were made by the Dikis culture, an ancient civilization that flourished in the region before the arrival of the Spanish in the 16th century. The Diki people were skilled craftsmen and farmers, but very little is known about their social structures, their beliefs, or their technology? What was the relationship between these spheres and the culture that produced them? Were they ceremonial objects, astronomical instruments, or simply artistic representations of something far beyond our comprehension? Even more perplexing is the destruction and dispersal of the spheres. For decades, many of the stones were moved or destroyed by banana plantations, construction projects, and even looters. Some were broken into pieces, while others were taken far from their original locations. Could there be more stones hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered? Or is it possible that more significant spheres, those with particularly profound meanings or connections to the ancient peoples, have been lost to time, irreparably damaged by human activity? At the heart of the mystery remains one central question. What was the true purpose of the stone spheres of Costa Rica? Were they mere curiosities, or were they integral to the spiritual and astronomical practices of the ancient Diquis people? No answers have been found to conclusively explain their purpose, and as such, they continue to remain one of the most perplexing and unexplained artifacts of the ancient world. As we stand before the massive, perfectly round stones, silent sentinels in the heart of Costa Rica, it is impossible not to feel the weight of history pressing down. What secrets do these spheres hold? What knowledge of the ancient world lies buried within them, and what truths might still be hidden just beneath the surface? Only time, and perhaps further exploration, will uncover what remains to be known about these enigmatic relics of the past. In the end, the mystery of the stone spheres of Costa Rica is far from solved. Their purpose, their creators, and their place in the broader history of the region remain elusive. But one thing is clear: they continue to stand as powerful symbols of a time long past, reminding us that some mysteries are meant to linger, leaving us to wonder what still lies hidden beneath the sands of time. As we continue our exploration into the most bizarre mysteries in history, we now find ourselves drawn to an object of extraordinary size and enigmatic origins: the giant samurai sword. In a world where the samurai are often depicted as masters of the sword, it is the discovery of a colossal blade, larger than any weapon ever seen in the history of Japan, that continues to spark intense speculation and curiosity. The story of this sword begins with a curious and mysterious discovery in the 14th century, but the fascination with this giant weapon continues to persist even today. The sword itself, although not fully understood in terms of its creation or purpose, challenges conventional notions about the capabilities of ancient weaponry and the culture of the samurai. Imagine a blade measuring over 2 meters in length, crafted from a steel alloy so complex that even modern metallurgists would struggle to replicate its unique properties. The handle is said to be ornate and massive, large enough for 2 hands to grip comfortably. The sword itself exudes a sense of power and significance, as if it could cut through the very fabric of time itself. Displayed for centuries as an artifact of reverence, it is believed to have belonged to a legendary samurai warrior, but there are few hard facts to back this assertion. The sword is known by various names, though it is most often referred to as the giant samurai sword, or sometimes the sword of the shogun. It was discovered, under unusual circumstances, in a remote mountainous region of Japan. The surrounding area, steeped in folklore and the remnants of forgotten battlefields, only added to the air of mystique that now envelops the sword. Scholars have tried for centuries to trace the sword's origins, but each theory has been met with limitations. Was it a ceremonial sword created for a particular purpose, or could it have been a weapon of actual battle? Some believe it may have been intended to demonstrate the immense power and status of a particular samurai family or warrior. The sheer size of the blade seems to suggest that it was not designed for practical combat, but rather as a symbol of authority. Yet, how could such a massive weapon have been wielded in battle? It raises the question of whether it was ever truly used in any conflict. Experts from various fields have debated the techniques that might have been employed to forge such a gigantic blade. The smelting process of samurai swords is already a highly specialized art, with the finest swords forged using highly controlled methods to produce a flexible but strong edge. Creating a blade this large would require more than just skill in metalwork. It would require an extraordinary understanding of materials, as well as tools and methods that were far ahead of their time. Was this sword forged by a master swordsmith with techniques lost to history? Or could it have been the work of a foreign smith, perhaps from China or even Korea, who brought advanced forging knowledge to Japan? Adding to the mystery, there are conflicting stories about the sword's origins. Some suggest that it was crafted during the reign of the Kamakura shogunate in the 12th century, a time of great political upheaval and military dominance in Japan. Others claim it was forged much later, during the Edo period in the 17th century, a time known for its relative peace and the artistic flourish of sword-making. Could it have been a product of a time when samurai were no longer needed in the battlefield, but still sought to prove their cultural and historical legacy through grand gestures? Despite its size, it's been suggested that the giant samurai sword was not meant for typical combat. Instead, it might have been a ritual object, imbued with symbolic significance. Some believe it was created for use in specific ceremonial purposes, such as a ritual offering or to accompany a ruler or samurai warrior during their transition into the afterlife. Given the historical context of samurai culture, which was deeply connected to spirituality and the concept of honor, the sword may have been seen as a sacred artifact, an embodiment of the warrior's power, dignity, and connection to the divine. This leads us to another line of thinking: the sword's symbolic meaning. The samurai, renowned for their strict code of honor, may have created this oversized weapon as a way to demonstrate their relationship with the spiritual world, with the sword acting as a bridge between the physical and the supernatural. The samurai were, after all, warriors trained not just in the art of combat, but in the meditative and philosophical aspects of their way of life. Could this sword, in its colossal form, have been a representation of unshakable will and a reflection of the warrior's inner strength? Adding another layer to the mystery are the strange accounts of the sword's history. Over time, it has allegedly been passed down through various prominent samurai families, many of whom refuse to speak of its true origin. Some even claim the sword was lost to time after being hidden away by an unknown ruler, possibly due to its immense power or the curse that came with possessing such a remarkable weapon. The sword's passage through time has only deepened its mystique, fueling speculation about its purpose and significance. Some historians even suggest that the sword could be tied to a larger network of ancient artifacts, perhaps linking it to other legendary swords or sacred weapons of the time. Could it be part of a series of objects created for an even greater purpose, one lost to history? Or is the giant samurai sword an isolated artifact with its own secrets? One fascinating theory posits that the sword might have been used as part of a ceremonial weapon of peace, representing a form of power that transcended physical warfare. In this light, it could have been wielded by a shogun or samurai who sought to demonstrate the divine right to rule, not through violence, but through symbolic power, a power that resided in the sword itself. And yet, despite centuries of investigation, we still have no definitive answers. The sword's size, its complexity, and its symbolism remain open to interpretation. Was it ever truly used in battle? Or was it meant to represent something far greater than any physical confrontation could offer? Perhaps we will never know the full truth behind the giant samurai sword, but the very mystery of it continues to capture the imagination of those who seek to uncover the secrets of the past. As we stand before the immense blade, we cannot help but wonder, what remains hidden in the shadows of history? What truths have we yet to uncover about the warriors who once wielded such an extraordinary object? And most of all, what mysteries lie within this forgotten artifact, waiting for the day when they will finally be revealed? As we continue our journey through the most bizarre mysteries in history, we find ourselves transported to a small but hauntingly significant site in southern Sweden, a place where time seems to have frozen in a brutal, unsettling moment. Sandbyborg, an ancient Iron Age fortification, has long stood as a silent witness to an event that no one fully understands: the Sandbyborg massacre. The scene is chilling in its simplicity. At first glance, the remains of the fort appear as just another piece of history, the remnants of an ancient settlement built to withstand the ravages of time. Surrounded by nature, the fort itself is a circle of stone walls, with a series of stone buildings and structures that once housed its inhabitants. The fort's location, perched on a small hill and overlooking a bay, suggests it was a strategic position in a landscape teeming with life during the late 4th century BC. Yet, despite its tranquil setting today, it was a place of untold violence, a place where the normal rhythms of daily life came to a horrific and abrupt end. The remains uncovered within the fort tell a gruesome story, one of sudden violence and complete destruction. Archaeologists first began excavating the site in the 1990s, but it wasn't until 2010 that the true scale of the Sandbyborg massacre began to reveal itself. What they discovered inside the walls of the ancient fort was both puzzling and terrifying. The bodies of over 25 men, women, and children, many of whom appeared to have been killed in a violent and seemingly unprovoked attack. The bodies were left in disarray, as if they had been taken by surprise, and in many cases, they showed signs of blunt force trauma, sharp force injuries, and defensive wounds, suggesting a brutal and swift assault. But there was something even stranger. Despite the carnage, the attackers appeared to have left no trace of their presence. The massacre was not just a sudden bloodbath. It was an act of precise violence, carried out with an unsettling level of brutality. The dead were positioned in various states of disarray, yet there were no signs of looting or any attempt to pillage the settlement. Some bodies were found in their homes, while others were lying out in the open, as if the attackers wanted to make sure that every person was accounted for. This was no ordinary raid. There were no survivors, no clear motive, and no indication that the attackers had come for anything other than destruction. But why? And by whom? Over the years, archaeologists have proposed a few theories, each of which casts a shadow of suspicion over the events of that night. Some suggest that the massacre could have been the result of a tribal conflict, a rival group seeking to take control of Sandbyborg or exact revenge for some previous grievance. Others wonder if the massacre could have been the work of a rogue faction, perhaps mercenaries or outlaws who descended upon the settlement for reasons that remain unclear. However, these theories seem to falter when confronted with certain unanswered questions. First, why would the attackers leave no trace of their presence? No signs of forced entry into the fort, no indication of a battle, no prisoners, just bodies, scattered in the settlement. It's as though the attackers simply vanished into the night, leaving no footprints behind. And the fact that there were no survivors poses another puzzle. In ancient times, especially in fortified settlements, a single attack usually didn't result in the complete obliteration of the community. Survivors, perhaps even a handful, would have likely managed to escape. So, why did everyone die that night? Another intriguing element that deepens the mystery of the Sandbyborg massacre is the discovery of certain buried artifacts. Among the bodies, archaeologists uncovered valuable objects, such as finely crafted jewelry, weapons, and tools, items that were not looted or taken by the attackers. This again suggests that the attackers were not after material gain. They didn't plunder. They didn't take captives. They didn't destroy the community for any tangible reward. Could it be that the massacre was driven by something far more personal, far more ideological than mere material gain? Was it an act of revenge, or perhaps an attempt to destroy a rival group or an ideological enemy, like a religious or political faction that saw the fort as a threat? If so, why would the attackers leave no sign of their presence? Could it be that they came from within the community itself, and that the attack was driven by a deep internal conflict? One of the most thought-provoking elements of this mystery is the possibility that the Sandby Borg massacre may have been a ritualistic event, perhaps an offering to the gods or a sacrifice of some kind. Ancient cultures, especially in the Mediterranean and Northern Europe, were not unfamiliar with such practices, and it is conceivable that the attackers could have been acting under the influence of some religious belief or superstition. If so, the ritualistic nature of the massacre would explain the apparent lack of practical motive. The purpose of the attack could have been driven by the need to carry out a sacred duty, rather than to pillage or conquer. However, this remains just speculation. And while the mystery of Sandby Borg continues to intrigue historians and archaeologists, no definitive answers have been found. The excavation of the site continues, with new discoveries being made that slowly shed light on the brutal events of that night. But as of now, the true nature of the attack, the identity of the perpetrators, and the reason behind the massacre remain an enduring enigma. What happened at Sandby Borg all those centuries ago? Could it have been the result of tribal warfare, or was it something far more mysterious, something that points to an ancient ritual, or even a more personal vendetta? What can the remains of the victims teach us about the ancient world? And will we ever uncover the true identity of the attackers, or are their secrets lost to the pages of history, locked forever within the bones of the victims they left behind? For now, we can only wonder. As we leave behind the chilling mysteries of ancient massacres and move forward in time, we find ourselves standing at the foot of one of Egypt's most enigmatic monuments. There, beneath the scorching sun, rise the towering colossi of Memnon, two massive statues that have withstood the ravages of time for over 3,400 years. These statues, originally erected by the pharaoh Amenhotep III around 1370 BC, are silent sentinels of the ancient Egyptian world, monuments to a king whose empire once stretched across the banks of the Nile. But what makes these statues even more fascinating isn't just their colossal size, or the fact that they were carved from a single piece of stone. It's a peculiar, almost otherworldly phenomenon that surrounds them, one that has puzzled travelers and historians for centuries. On rare occasions, the statues have been known to emit mysterious sounds, a haunting, low, and almost melodic tone that has been described as a singing or moaning noise. In ancient times, these sounds were so well known that they became part of the local lore. The Egyptians believed that the sounds were the voice of the deceased Memnon, the legendary son of the goddess Eos, who was known for his tragic death. According to the myth, Memnon's mother, Eos, wept endlessly for her fallen son, and in some versions of the story, the colossi themselves were thought to represent Memnon's mourning. Ancient travelers often spoke of hearing the statues singing at dawn, a sound that was said to be a manifestation of the king's sorrow and a reflection of the eternal bond between mother and son. Over the years, the phenomenon came to be seen as a miraculous event, a sacred, supernatural occurrence that held deep meaning for those who witnessed it. But what was really happening? Why did the statues make these sounds, and what could it possibly tell us about the ancient Egyptians' understanding of sound, the afterlife, or even their architecture? The mystery of the colossi of Memnon's acoustic phenomenon wasn't fully examined until the early 19th century, when the first modern scientific investigations into the sound were conducted. In the years following Napoleon's invasion of Egypt, European scholars and archaeologists began to visit the site, and the sounds were documented in more scientific terms. Some of the earliest reports described the noise as a moaning or a whistling sound that could be heard at dawn, just after sunrise, when the temperature differences between the air and the stone statues were most pronounced. But despite these early observations, the cause of the phenomenon remained elusive. Was it the wind, or some sort of natural resonance? Was it related to the specific material used to carve the statues? Or perhaps the location itself, sitting as they do in the desert near the Nile River, created some sort of atmospheric condition that amplified the sound? Modern investigations have suggested a few plausible explanations for the strange noises. One of the most widely accepted theories is that the sounds are the result of thermal expansion and contraction. The statues, which are made of limestone, are subjected to extreme temperature fluctuations. During the day, the desert heat can cause the stone to expand, while at night, as the temperature drops, the stone contracts. This cycle could cause small fractures or fissures in the stone, which, when subjected to the right conditions, could emit sounds as the stone shifts or settles. Some researchers believe that moisture in the stone, combined with the intense temperature change, may cause the statues to produce creaking, whistling, or whimpering noises. However, there are several aspects of the phenomenon that make this explanation less than conclusive. For one, the sounds produced by the statues seem to be quite specific in their timing, primarily occurring at dawn, and not at any other time of day when the temperature fluctuations are similar. This suggests that there may be more to the phenomenon than simply thermal expansion. Additionally, the phenomenon has been reported for thousands of years, long before the modern scientific understanding of material physics and temperature mechanics. It seems unlikely that ancient Egyptians, who worshipped their kings as living gods, would have attributed the sounds to a mere geological process. Instead, it's possible that they believed the sounds were divinely significant, perhaps associated with Memnon's soul or the king's connection to the gods. Another intriguing possibility is that the sounds may be connected to a structural peculiarity of the statues themselves. Some researchers have proposed that the statues were intentionally designed to amplify sound, serving as an acoustic instrument, perhaps even a form of communication between the living and the dead. The statues, after all, were intended to be more than just mere monuments. They were constructed to serve as a symbol of divine power and a gateway to the afterlife. Could it be that the creators of the statues used advanced knowledge of acoustics to create a sound that would resonate in the sacred spaces of the ancient world, sending a message from the spirit realm? If so, what were they trying to communicate? The spiritual significance of the Colosse's sounds cannot be overlooked. The Egyptians were a deeply religious people, and sound played a crucial role in their rituals and beliefs. For them, the ability to communicate with the gods and the dead was a vital part of life and death. The singing statues may have been seen as an expression of this spiritual connection, an expression that transcended mere physical explanation and spoke directly to the soul of Egypt. In this light, the sounds could be interpreted as a form of divine presence, an auditory manifestation of the eternal life that the Egyptians so fervently believed in. But is there something more? Could the sounds of the Colossi be the result of some long-lost technique or architectural knowledge that we've yet to fully understand? While theories of thermal expansion and moisture-related vibrations hold weight, there are still many unanswered questions. For example, why do the sounds only seem to happen at dawn? And why do some visitors to the site report hearing more distinct sounds than others? Does the environment, particularly the presence of the Nile River, play a role in amplifying the acoustics? As the world continues to study the Colossi of Memnon and their strange acoustic phenomenon, one thing is certain: the mystery of these ancient statues is far from resolved. Whether it's a simple natural occurrence or the result of an ancient, almost magical practice, the sounds of the Colossi remain a reminder of the enduring power of Egypt's spiritual and architectural legacy. The statues, still standing after millennia, continue to whisper their secrets to those who listen closely enough. What were the ancient Egyptians trying to tell us through the eerie songs of these statues? Was it an expression of divine presence, or something more practical? an acoustic design meant to create a connection between this world and the next. Perhaps, like so many other ancient mysteries, the Colossi of Memnon will remain forever shrouded in mystery, leaving us to ponder whether the answers are buried beneath the sands of time, waiting to be uncovered. The coastline of Dorset on the southern shores of England is a place of great natural beauty. Its rolling hills, dense woodlands, and rugged cliffs seem untouched by time. But beneath this serene landscape lies a mystery, one that has perplexed archaeologists and historians for years: the headless Vikings of Dorset. In 2009, a group of archaeologists digging at a site in Portsmouth, Dorset, made an astonishing discovery. They unearthed the remains of over 50 individuals, many of them Viking warriors, all without their heads. The sheer number of bodies, 54 in total, was shocking, but it was the state of their remains that would ignite fierce debates. Their skulls were missing, their necks severed with an eerie precision. This was not the work of scavengers, nor the result of the chaotic aftermath of battle. Something far more deliberate had taken place here. The discovery immediately raised a multitude of questions. Why were these Viking warriors beheaded? What could have led to the brutal and seemingly senseless act of decapitation? And why were these individuals buried in this remote corner of the English coast? To understand this mystery, we must first turn to the Vikings themselves. The Vikings, from the late 8th to 11th centuries, were infamous for their seafaring raids across northern Europe, their ships slicing through the waters of the North Sea, the Baltic, and even as far as North America. These fierce warriors, traders, and explorers shaped the course of history with their raids on monasteries, towns, and cities. Yet, despite their reputation for violence and brutality, Viking society also had complex customs surrounding death and the afterlife. Viking burials typically followed a set of rituals. Warriors were often laid to rest with their weapons, shields, and sometimes even ships, in recognition of their prowess in battle. Some were cremated, and their ashes scattered, while others were buried in large burial mounds. But this burial site in Dorset did not follow the usual customs. Here, the decapitated bodies were not accompanied by weapons, not buried with honor. Instead, they were scattered across the landscape, their bodies arranged in a fashion that suggested deliberate placement. The lack of skulls raised immediate red flags. The first question that came to mind was whether this was a punishment. Were these warriors beheaded as part of a ritualistic execution? The Vikings were known for their strict codes of honor. Could these men have been executed for some crime or dishonorable act? There are historical accounts of Viking warriors being punished for transgressions, but the decapitation of so many individuals at once felt different. Perhaps these men had been sentenced to death for something far more serious. Some historians have posited that these warriors were victims of internal strife, a violent clash between rival factions. Viking society was not monolithic. As the Viking Age neared its end, the once disparate tribes began to form more centralized kingdoms, and internal conflicts were not uncommon. Could these men have been part of a faction that lost favor? Were they traitors who were punished for their disloyalty? Others have suggested that these bodies might have been the result of a larger conflict between the Vikings and the Saxons, who were pushing back against Viking incursions. This theory is supported by the fact that the decapitations occurred during the early 11th century, a time when the Vikings were slowly being driven out of England and other parts of Europe. It's possible these individuals were caught in a skirmish, captured by their enemies, and executed as a show of dominance. Their beheading could have been an act of symbolic defiance, a way for the Saxons to demonstrate control over the once feared invaders. However, what makes the Dorset discovery even more perplexing is the absence of any evidence of battle. There were no signs of a violent confrontation, no weapons buried with the bodies, and no indication of the warriors having died in combat. The decapitations seemed strangely clinical, almost ritualistic. Some researchers have even suggested that these were ritual killings, that the Vikings had performed these acts as part of a spiritual belief or to appease the gods. Viking culture was deeply entwined with superstition and religious practice, and it was not unusual for sacrifices to be made to ensure success in battle or a safe passage to the afterlife. While these theories are fascinating, there is no definitive evidence to support any one explanation. As is often the case with historical mysteries, we are left to speculate, using the fragments of evidence we have to piece together a narrative. One of the most confounding aspects of the Dorset burial site is the location. Dorset was not a major Viking settlement, and the area had no known Viking strongholds. The discovery raises another crucial question. Why were these warriors buried here? Had they been stranded or lost on a journey? Or were they part of a small Viking raiding party that had been caught off guard and decimated by local forces? The fact that their burial site was in such an isolated location, far from the Viking heartlands in the north, suggests that they may have been outsiders, far from the home base of their clans. Furthermore, some have speculated that this site could have been the location of an ambush. Perhaps these warriors had been overwhelmed in a surprise attack, executed by those who had a deep-seated hatred or fear of the Vikings. Alternatively, it could have been the site of a fateful betrayal, where these warriors were sacrificed by their own leaders to placate an outside force or to end a conflict within their ranks. There is also the possibility that this discovery might not be as unique as we think. The Vikings were widespread across Europe during the 8th to 11th centuries, and many of their burial practices are still largely unexplored. Could there be more sites like this one, hidden beneath the soil of England or elsewhere in Europe? And if so, what could they reveal about the inner conflicts that shaped the Viking world? One of the more fringe theories suggests that these headless bodies are a reflection of a lost Viking cult, one whose practices were so secretive and mysterious that they never left a trace in the historical record. Could these warriors have been members of a mystical order, performing dark rituals that have since been forgotten? As we reflect on the discovery of the headless Vikings of Dorset, we are left with more questions than answers. Theories abound, but the mystery of why these warriors met such a grisly fate remains unresolved. Perhaps the true story of their deaths lies buried in the soil, waiting for someone to uncover it. The absence of skulls, the brutal nature of the executions, and the strange location of the burial site all point to a deeper story, a story of violence, betrayal, or a ritual long forgotten by time. The more we dig into the past, the more we realize that history often leaves us with fragments, puzzles, and mysteries that refuse to be fully solved. As we stand at the edge of the Dorset burial site, we can only wonder, what other secrets might be hidden beneath the earth, waiting to speak to us? Nestled in the arid expanse of the Qinghai province, high on the rugged slopes of Mount Baigong, lies one of the most perplexing and enigmatic archaeological sites in the world, the Baigong Pipes. The mystery surrounding these peculiar ancient pipes has confounded researchers for decades, with some claiming they are the remnants of a lost civilization, while others suggest they are evidence of technologies that defy conventional historical understanding. But no matter the theory, the question remains: how could such complex structures exist in this remote corner of the world, and who, if anyone, constructed them? The Baigong Pipes are a series of strange metallic tubes embedded into the rock formation surrounding a small, ancient saltwater lake known as Mount Baigong's Lake. What makes these pipes so mysterious is not only their eerie placement, but also their undeniable age and the fact that they seem to defy explanation by traditional archaeological standards. From a distance, they appear almost inconspicuous, small, rusted pipes poking out from the rock, their origins hidden within the folds of the landscape. But as one gets closer, the sheer density of these pipes becomes more apparent. In some places, the pipes emerge from the earth in clusters, twisting in and out of rock formations, curving and overlapping in ways that seem to defy natural processes. Some of the pipes are even embedded in cavernous structures and large, seemingly unnatural holes in the stone. While the most well-known pipes are situated around the lake itself, other similar formations are scattered across the mountainside, creating a sense of scale and intricacy that is difficult to ignore. So, what are these pipes, and how did they get here? To date, no definitive explanation has been found. The most accepted theory is that they are man-made, but the timeline and the civilization responsible remain a mystery. Mainstream archaeologists suggest that they are part of an ancient water system, possibly constructed during a long-lost period of Chinese history. Some believe the pipes may have been part of an early mining operation, with the pipes intended for transporting water or materials. However, others claim they bear striking similarities to industrial piping, an element of construction that did not exist in the time periods typically ascribed to these structures. For example, carbon dating of materials found near the pipes suggests that they could be anywhere from several thousand years old to just a few centuries old, adding to the uncertainty of their origin. Other studies show traces of materials that suggest the pipes may have been exposed to high levels of heat, indicating a process of smelting or forging, a technology that was not widely used in the region until relatively modern times. This discrepancy leads to another hypothesis. Could these pipes be from a lost civilization, one far more advanced than what historical records have taught us to expect for the area? Perhaps the pipes were created by a people who existed long before the Chinese dynasties we know today. What if they were constructed by an ancient, highly skilled civilization whose knowledge and technologies were so far beyond our own that it has been lost to time? These questions remain unanswered, but they are enough to stir the imaginations of archaeologists, historians, and even those with a more speculative worldview. Perhaps the most intriguing, albeit controversial, theory surrounding the Baigong pipes is the possibility that they are of extraterrestrial origin. Proponents of the ancient astronaut theory suggest that these pipes were built by beings from another world, an idea that has gained popularity in recent decades due to their strange and otherworldly design. According to these theorists, the pipes could be remnants of a lost alien civilization that visited Earth in antiquity, leaving behind their technology for future generations to discover. Such theories often cite the fact that the pipes seem far too advanced for the time period traditionally ascribed to the region. If the pipes were created by humans, why do they appear to be made from materials that would be difficult to manipulate without advanced forging techniques? How did these ancient people, if they were indeed human, have the technology to create such intricate industrial structures, especially in such an isolated, inhospitable location? The alien hypothesis is further fueled by the fact that no known records of a civilization that could have built such pipes have been found in the area. It's as if the technology appeared from nowhere, leading some to wonder if these pipes are the remnants of a much older, non-human civilization that somehow vanished, leaving behind only their artifacts and mysteries. On the other side of the debate, some scholars suggest that the Baigong pipes may be evidence of lost technologies, ancient engineering feats that have been forgotten by modern society. On the other side of the debate, some scholars suggest that the Baigong pipes may be evidence of lost technologies, ancient engineering feats that have been forgotten by modern society. Many ancient cultures, from the Egyptians to the Greeks to the Maya, are known to have possessed knowledge and technologies that seem beyond their time. Could the pipes be a vestige of such ancient wisdom, technologies that were lost during the cataclysmic events of antiquity, such as wars, natural disasters, or the collapse of civilizations? Despite the theories suggesting an artificial origin for the Baigong pipes, there is also the possibility that the pipes are naturally occurring geological formations. Geologists have pointed out that some of the pipes resemble natural features, such as tubes formed by mineral deposits or fossilized roots. However, while such natural formations are certainly possible, They fail to explain the precise alignment of the pipes and their unnatural placement within rock formations. Many of the pipes exhibit straight edges, consistent diameters, and a distinct pattern that doesn't appear in typical natural rock formations. Moreover, the presence of metallic substances such as iron and copper found near the pipes makes it difficult to dismiss the idea that these structures were deliberately crafted. And while it is true that geological processes can sometimes lead to the formation of tube-like shapes, these structures appear too systematic and purposeful to be entirely natural. Even more perplexing, some pipes seem to lead nowhere, disappearing into the rock or the ground without any discernible purpose. The proximity of the Baigong pipes to Mount Baigong's lake adds another layer of mystery. The lake itself is small, saline, and surrounded by remote mountains, a harsh environment that would seem unlikely to support large-scale industrial projects. However, the pipe's location next to the lake has led some researchers to speculate that the pipes could have once been part of a water distribution system. But what kind of system? And why was it built in such a desolate region? Could the pipes have been used to transport water for mining operations? Or were they part of a grander, more sophisticated network, one that provided vital resources to a population long since lost to history? The fact that the pipes seem to run deep into the rock without any obvious outlet raises the possibility that they were part of an underground network, one that served a much larger, now forgotten purpose. Some even suggest that the pipes could have been linked to an ancient form of energy production, drawing comparisons to modern hydraulic or geothermal systems. If such technologies existed thousands of years ago, could they explain the advanced nature of these mysterious pipes? Today, the Baigong pipes remain largely unexplored. They sit at the edge of a small, tranquil lake, hidden within the mountainous terrain, as if guarding their secrets. Though countless theories have been proposed to explain their existence, none of them have been conclusively proven. The pipes have become a symbol of the unknown, a reminder of just how much of our history remains buried beneath layers of time, waiting to be uncovered. And as researchers continue to study these pipes, one cannot help but wonder, what might we still be missing? Could the true origin of the Baigong pipes lie somewhere beyond the reach of conventional science, perhaps in a time forgotten by history, or even from beyond this world? The mystery of the pipes remains unresolved, but it speaks to a larger truth. The past is never as simple as it seems, and the secrets it holds may be more complex and more extraordinary than we can imagine.